I'd like to call to order the June 14th, 2021 City Council meeting. Would you all please rise for the Pledge of Allegiance? I pledge allegiance
to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Please remain standing. Is there anyone in the audience that would like to give us a short prayer? Yes, absolutely. Thank you.
Dear Father in heaven, I thank you for you and for your mercy and for your grace and for your blessings. I thank you for loving us all perfectly and completely, whether we believe in you or not. Thank you for the men and women who are here, Lord, who serve you in City Council and everyone who works for the City of Dunnellon. Father, bless them with vision and perseverance to do their jobs with integrity and honor, always seeking to do what's best for the City of Dunnellon and its residents. May there be respect and harmony among them as they interact and make decisions that will promote growth, peace, order, and justice here in Dunnellon. I pray your blessings over them and also for everyone in this room right now and all the people whom they love, their families, and all the residents of Dunnellon. In Jesus' name, amen.
Amen. Please be seated. It is now 5:34. And we're going to have roll call. Ms. Roberts?
Yes, sir. Mayor White?
Present.
Vice Mayor Hanchard? Here. Councilwoman Williams?
Here.
Councilwoman King?
Here.
Councilwoman Cummings?
Present.
Troy Siler, Public Works?
Here.
Dan Smith, Finance Department?
Here.
Billy Manowski, Parks Department?
Here.
Michelle Leonard, Parks Department? She just stepped out. Chief McQuaid?
Here.
Lieutenant Yachts?
Here.
And we have Richard Powell and Powell Jones, CPA, and Attorney Hand.
I'm here. Very good.
The agenda for this meeting was posted on the city's website and City Hall bulletin board on Thursday, June 10th, 2021.
Very good. Thank you, Ms. Roberts. Want to thank everyone for coming to tonight's City Council meeting. Even though the agenda does not have that many particular agenda items, I anticipate these agenda items are very important, carry a lot of weight, and I would expect there's probably going to be some discussion, extended discussion on a few of them. Before we get started, I just want to go over a few of the ground rules, which I always do for every meeting. If you plan to speak, please be advised that you have 3 minutes to speak. Please turn your audios, anything that will ring or possibly interrupt the meeting, off at this time. If you feel the need to converse with someone next to you, it's quite amazing. The acoustics in the room do travel, and we can hear, not exactly what you're saying, but we can hear it, so please go outside. When you come to speak, please state your name and address, and speak into the mic, because this is being recorded and it is also being sent out to listeners that are listening remotely. Council, a reminder that we are under the Robert Rules of Order. I will attempt with every item to give each council person 2 opportunities to speak. At that point, I will try to move forward to a closure of the discussion so we can do our meeting in a timely manner. If at any time I try to close discussion and the majority of council wants to continue discussion, you do have the opportunity to overrule the chair. So, with that said, does anyone on council have any comments regarding the agenda as it's published?
Question. I thought we had
decided to allow, or to put on the consent agenda, and I apologize for not bringing it up earlier to Mandy, but the Little League baseball field, I thought that had been decided to be put on the,
It is my recollection that we had all had a unanimous consensus on that, and it was my recollection that that was supposed to be on the consent agenda.
how can we put that, I mean, we can vote for it, but I just thought it was already kind of to the consent agenda, so do we have to can we not put it back on there?
If all of you agree to put it on consent, there's just not a motion. I don't recall, I have to go back and look at my notes, but, there's not a proposed motion associated with that agenda item. So I was looking to you all, because I don't know for sure what you decided. I have to go back and look at my notes, but I don't recall it being on consent.
I thought it was too.
Yeah. Yeah, so it was
Y'all
supposed to be,
agreed
so.
to
Okay. So you can vote on it if you want to combine it with the consent agenda, or vote on it after consent?
You could, but in order to place it on the consent agenda, you'd have to take public comment
Okay,
on it,
okay.
and so it would actually make the process, longer,
Okay.
as opposed to just hearing it as a regular agenda item.
Okay, thank you.
All right, thank you for bringing that to our attention. I think the best thing is just to keep it as is.
That's fine.
And it's actually a feel-good thing. We can maybe talk a little bit about it, and let everybody know exactly what it is.
Short talk. Short talk.
Yeah, right, quite. Okay, public comment on non-agenda items. What this means is before we begin the meeting, anything that is not on this agenda, you can speak to at this time. Anything that's on the agenda, you must wait till we get to that item to speak to it. So if there's anything that you would like to speak to, anything whatsoever, here's your opportunity to speak outside of what's on the agenda. Do we have anybody signed up? Yes?
The first person is Van Aiken.
Mr. Akins? Welcome.
Thank you. Mayor, council, my name is Van Aiken. I'm a real estate broker with Foxfire Realty. My address is 615 East Silver Springs Boulevard, Ocala, Florida. And I'm a designated commercial industrial real estate broker. And I've been watching the Soul Harbor Church property. And if the council doesn't have a long-range plan for this building, I would be interested in doing a market study and maybe doing a market proposal for the property to be sold, if you think that would be a good idea for the city of Dunnellon. Thank you.
Thank you very much. Anyone else signed up?
Bill Bibbert.
Mr. Bibber?
Mayor, I have a couple things about Blue Run Park, but I see that's
Gotta
on
come.
the agenda piece a little different than the items on the agenda.
Do you want to speak now, or do you want to wait till the agenda item comes up? If it's going to be part of the discussion, you should wait. But if you think it's, okay, all right.
Aaron Kramer.
Mr. Kramer? Would you,
I'm going to wait for the agenda to be spoken about.
what you want to speak is on the agenda?
Yes, sir.
Very good. Okay.
Julianne Mendonca.
Hi, Julianne Mendonca, 11894 East Blue Cove Drive. And I'm just here to share that Protect Our Neighborhoods is pleased to share that a citywide survey has been successfully completed, and we're in the final stages of compiling the data for presentation at next month's meeting. We mailed 872 surveys, for every registered voter household in Dunnellon. And so far, we've received over 150 responses, which is approximately 20%. The survey provided an opportunity to weigh in on 5 issues: the police building, the rivers, the community center, business district, and roads. And to our knowledge, there's been no survey of this kind conducted in Dunnellon since the 1970s. So for people who might not have sent their survey back yet, we're encouraging them still to send it back, because we're incorporating all responses as they're returned. Protect Our Neighborhoods is asking the City Council to consider tabling important votes related to big ticket spending until the priorities of the tax-paying city voters are heard through the presentation of our survey results. Thank you.
I don't have anyone else.
Okay. Is there anybody else in the audience that didn't sign up that would like to speak before we go forward? Okay, very good. Now we're going to go to the consent agenda. And I'll just talk a little bit about that. I'm aware a lot of people don't go to every meeting and sometimes don't understand how things work. But if you look at the agenda, first 6 things are on the consent agenda. This means that these are things that we discussed at the workshop. And there's a consensus among council that discussion has been sufficiently done and appropriate, and we are ready to vote in a package on all these things at one time and go forward. So this is your opportunity. If there's anything on the consent agenda that you would like to make comment to before council takes action on it, this is your opportunity. All right. Please note that no one has spoke to the consent agenda. Council, do we have a motion by council to approve the consent agenda?
I move the consent agenda be approved as presented.
All in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? Please note, consent agenda was passed unanimously. So just like that, we go to item number 7 on the agenda, community liaison presenters. Our first person that we have scheduled is Christine Mills for the Granada. Christine, are you here?
She's not here.
No? Okay. We'll go to the next person, Faith O'Brien for Dunnellon Square. Hey, hi, Faith. I didn't see you sitting behind that podium. Hi there. Welcome.
Welcome. Thank you. I'm Faith O'Brien. I live in Dunnellon Square. I'm the liaison for Dunnellon Square. And I mentioned to the ladies who organize the liaisons that we have something very special. We have lots of activities there in Dunnellon Square. But on the 3rd Monday at 3 o'clock, from 3 to 4, in the clubhouse, we have an old-fashioned hymn sing. And it seemed there might be people from all parts of the city who would be interested in coming to that. It's the 3rd Monday of each month from 3 to 4. And we sing whatever songs people request. And we have a lot of fun doing that. I'm the one that plays for it, and I've played for many, many hymn sings and sing-alongs. So, and also I don't see anybody here from the historic district, but I want to mention that the Presbyterian Church is resuming their concert series, and I think everybody's really excited about that. And the reason I know that is I'm the October concert. I'm going to be presenting a piano concert at that on the 3rd Sunday of October.
May I ask for just one
Yes,
quick question?
please.
Just real quick. Would you be opposed if I put in the church bulletin at Dunnellon Presbyterian Church about your hymn sing-along?
Oh, that would be wonderful.
Okay.
It's the third Monday of each month, 3 to 4,
3 to 4,
in the
okay.
clubhouse in Dunnellon Square.
perfect. I just wanted to ask permission before I did anything.
Sure.
So thank you.
And I don't know if you need my name, but it's I-E-N.
I-E-N?
O''B-R-I-E-N.
Oh, wait, how do we spell it?
It's O''B-R-I-E-N.
Oh, E-N, okay, sorry.
With the A, it gets switched and becomes O'Brain.
Sounds good. Thank you, ma'am.
Thank you very much.
I might come, but I won't sing. I love
Yeah,
people
sing
too
along.
much.
I love to sing.
I've heard you sing. You are quite good. All right, we're moving to number 8 right now. This is the portion of the council meeting. Everybody's looking forward to a financial report, right? So we want to welcome one of our auditors, Richard Powell, for his yearly report to council in the city. Welcome, sir.
Great. It's a pleasure being here and delivering the annual audit of the city of Dunnellon. We performed audit field work on site with your staff. We prepared the financial report. It's been reviewed by your financial staff and the mayor. And so this is a formal presentation. And I promise you I will not review all 68 pages. That's probably the best thing I'll say tonight.
68 pages. Yes.
So, as always, I'll review what I consider the highlights and then be pleased to answer any questions, address any concerns of the City Council. On page 4, 5, and 6 is the audit opinion. It states that it's a complete audit of the city conducted in accordance with applicable auditing standards that include the financial auditing standards and the government auditing standards. So there's 2 levels of required audit procedures. In an audit, what you seek is a clean, unmodified opinion that states that the financial statements are an accurate reflection of how the city stood at the end of the fiscal year, what transpired financially during the year. You have that highest level of assurance, which is a good reflection on the quality of records and financial practices of the city. The next section, beginning on page 7, is some required overview financial information on the city entitled Management's Discussion and Analysis. But due to the fact that it is derived from the financial statements, I'll ask that you review that on your own, and I'll go directly to the principal financial statements. First one being on page 16. Okay, so this is the first full year in which the city operated without operating utilities, so there are only governmental funds. You have no enterprise funds now. So on page 16 is the balance sheet of the 2 governmental funds that you have, a balance sheet being a snapshot financial view of these funds at the end of the year. First fund, your main fund, is the general fund, and then you have the tax increment financing district, the CRA fund, and then a total. So the total assets of the general fund were $5,770,123. Total liabilities were $463,012. Fund balances are cash reserves. So the total fund balances are $5,307,111. You have numerous categories of restrictions on your fund balances. You can see there's, I think, about 12 of them. And so, but if you look at the bottom, the unassigned fund balance, which is $2,805,382, is the unrestricted reserve of the city, which is under control of the city council and can be used for any legal expenditure. I always do a calculation to see, well, how many months of your operations would that pay for? And in this year, it would pay for about 10 months, which is a good level of reserve. The TIF fund, the total assets, $913,971. and it liabilities $5,949, and so the fund balance there is $908,022. Now, the TIF fund is derived from taxes collected in the CRA district, your TIF district, from the city and the county, based on the incremental growth from when the district was established. It again must be spent for eligible projects within the district. The next statement on page 18 is the statement of revenues, expenditures, and changes in fund balance. So for the general fund, your revenues were $3,707,466. Total expenditures were $3,598,398. So in this year, you had an excess revenues over expenditures of $109,068, which increased those reserves to the $5.3 million. CRA had revenues of $276,588, expenditures $71,684. So in this year, your excess revenues were $204,904, which again added to those reserves, but which again must be spent on future projects in the CRA district. After that are notes and disclosures, and the majority of the notes, and you have these governmental bodies called the Governmental Accounting Standards Board that keeps issuing pronouncements that we have to comply with. So the notes, the audit report gets longer. But on page 36 is a table that shows the capital assets of the city. And again, these are all governmental assets. And so at the end of the year, your land type assets were $3,296,312. Depreciable assets were $3,865,462. Accumulated depreciation. So depreciation is an accounting expense, but it's not a cash expense, but it gives you information on how you are using up these assets and will need to replace them in the future. So doing the calculation of accumulated depreciation, your depreciable assets are about 70% depreciated, which makes them probably older than equivalent assets at other cities your size. So your assets are getting older, and I was just glancing at your agenda and could see that you're discussing capital projects, and that's a good reason why. The next page on page 37 shows your long-term liabilities. This is the debt and employee-related long-term liabilities. Okay, you have one debt issue, the revenue bond issue, that the ending balance was $2,143,750. It has to do with the long prior telecommunications debt, and it bears no interest, and it is paid out through 2033. Then you have compensated absences, which is a calculation of how much is owed, would be owed employees if they separated at the end of the year, $201,982. OPEB liability is a health insurance issue, $47,316. The one statement I didn't mention, an unusual area that Dunnellon has, if you go back to page 20. Okay, the city has pension trust funds, which are not like part of Florida retirement system, but are your own intact funds for your public safety officers. The cash at the end of the year was $4,143,247. It's all reserved for future employee benefits. Almost every other government that we audit or that we look at has an unfunded pension liability, substantial amounts, but you are very unique in that you have a pension asset of about $1.8 million. So your pension plans, defined benefit plans, are fully funded, and that you're just maintaining them, which helps your budget when you're having to, other people have to make a lot of contributions every year. So financially, I would say you were clearly stronger at the end of the year by about $110,000. You lived within your budget, and you were very, again, like I said, operated within the budget, ended up stronger at the end of the year than at the beginning of the year. The next part of our audit, on page 59, is a schedule that shows your grant activity during the year. In this year, you had federal grants that totaled $623,135, state grants that totaled $293,835. So your total grants were $916,970. On page 6162 is our report regarding the required audit procedures required by government auditing standards. These procedures go beyond just financial numbers, include internal control over financial reporting, compliance with various laws, regulations, policies of the city. In this report, there are no findings or question costs. On page 6364 is the management letter required by rules of the Auditor General of Florida. In this letter, in those rules, we address specific areas required by the rules. One is that we look at any prior year findings or recommendations and see what the status is, and pleased to report there were no reportable recommendations or findings in the prior year. And in the current year, there were no reportable recommendations or findings. We did financial condition assessment procedures, and I've given you the highlights of those. We determined that the city did not meet any of the conditions that might lead to or be in a financial emergency. Our audit did not disclose any other areas that we would be required to report. Page 65, we're required to perform audit procedures regarding the city's investment of public funds. We did and had no findings regarding those procedures. On page 67, 68 is a required communication between our firm and the city council. Basically states that we had no disagreements with management during the course of the audit. We had no limitations placed on our audit procedures. We were given access to all information and documents that we requested. So be pleased to answer any questions of the City Council.
Any questions? Ms. Covich? Aaron?
I appreciate all y'all's. I know your team is always really very thorough, and this is just a great presentation. So thank you. It's good to see that we're doing our jobs right, or y'all are.
Yeah. Penny?
Not at this time. I assume that these documents will be given to the council at some future time. We can request those documents that you just went through.
Sure. Well, all of them are in your public records. Yes, ma'am. Yes.
Thank you.
Mm.
I give kudos to the staff as well. Continue to do your best, regardless of what others may think.
And wasn't this already sent out to us?
Yes.
Okay, I thought it is.
Oh, I did not know. Thank you.
Yeah, no, I was just making sure I read something today.
So, Mr. Powell, one question or comment I might have for you is when you're doing your audit is basically to see if the numbers add up and if our procedures are correct and if we're going about it the right way, rather than looking for anything that might be unusual, different, or something much different than a year before and bring question to that.
Okay, it's a financial audit. The financial audit, the limitations and required procedures are spelled out in all of our accounting and auditing professional standards. And so it fully complies with financial audit. Obviously, areas of that is that we always compare information to the prior. In our case, we have a history of prior years, and anything that is different, we're required to question and to gain an understanding of why it's not the same.
It's very good. So that takes it a step beyond just making sure the numbers add up. You actually look at it, and if something looks like it is unusual, meaning a much greater expenses in certain columns or much less in certain columns, it would pique your curiosity to say what happened here, correct?
Yeah, absolutely, and it's not necessarily a policy of our firm. That's a required audit procedure.
Okay.
But yes, sir.
Thank you very much. I think I love that answer. That's very good. Anything else? So, when will we see you again?
Usually, depending on how the flow, we try to do interim work in the summer, and I guess it is summer, so it might be late summer, and then as soon as your financial records are ready to be audited, we can schedule your audit. So it's just. But it's always a pleasure coming to Dunnellon, especially the last few years since you have a nice hotel now. And you always had good restaurants, and so our staff likes to come here. And you have good staff and friendly people.
Thank you very much.
That's wonderful.
Thank you.
Thank you very much. Safe travels home.
Right, okay. And I appreciate the early time slot, and I hope I didn't abuse it. So.
No, you did good.
And Mr. Powell, I know you've noticed the increase in lots of traffic here in Dunnellon.
I did, yeah. You can tell that you have something going on here.
Yes.
Yes.
That is good.
All right. See you next year.
Yes.
Okay, thank you.
Bye.
So, Jan, I guess you can sigh relief. Whew, huh? All right.
They're going to be starting interim audit soon.
Well,
Sigh relief for this past year.
I mean, that is a credit to you that you have just gone through a line-by-line audit, checking your addition, subtraction, what you did, and looks like you came out totally clean, so congratulations.
Thank you. And counsel, barring any accidents I may have at the end of the year, hopefully the audit will happen sooner this year than it has, because me being out 3 months really pushed everything behind.
And we should take note that a lot of your work you've done was during a period of time when you had a broken leg and you were pretty much immobilized. What'd you do? Laying on your back in bed?
Oh, no, I was sitting up. Laptop on my lap.
She was able to count her toes.
Yeah, that's a good thing about technology, huh? That's one good thing. You can work from home.
Staff really stepped up and took the extra workloads and such.
Absolutely.
So, as always, our staff is performing over and beyond. So,
Very
thank
good.
y'all.
Okay. That wasn't as painful as I thought it might be with a financial report. So we go to number 9, agreement with Kimberly Horn for grant preparation and writing services for the Dunnellon Police Station in the amount of $15,000. I do want to make note that on the consent agenda, one of the consent agendas was to ask for a grant for the same amount of money for the paving of Dunnellon Heights. So that was one of the things on the consent agenda. But we felt this particular issue would be something that public and council would like to discuss. So it is on the agenda. So at this time, item number 9, we will accept any public comment. Ms. Roberts, we have anybody signed up for number 9?
Do we have the signage? Did you have one out there for, I don't have anyone else. Just had one sign-up sheet.
One?
Yeah, I don't have anyone else signed up. I do have someone that would like for me to read something into the record for them at some point that can't be here, but I don't have anyone else signed up.
How about reading that when the comments are over?
Sure.
Okay. All right. No one has signed up. Would anybody like to speak to it that did not sign up? Yes, Ms. Dunn, please.
Kathy Dunn, 11386 Hendricks Drive, Dunnellon. I would implore City Council to table all expenditures for retrofitting Souls Harbor's Church in light of the preliminary findings by the survey that was conducted last month, indicating it was extremely low on the priorities for the citizens. I feel that a survey of this type should have been done before they even bought the church, to find out what the citizens want. It is incumbent on the government of Dunnellon to do what the citizens put as their highest priorities. Also, I would like to suggest that we take Mr. Aiken up on his offer for a market study to find out how marketable the property would be. This money that we sell the church for could be used to repair the current police station. Thank you.
Thank you. Any other public comment before council discusses this among ourselves? Okay, please note we had one comment. All right, we're on number 9. Is there anybody that would like to comment? Ms. Covich?
Yes, actually, I have a couple, maybe more than a couple of comments. The last grant that was applied for, that was the USDA Community Rural Assistance Grant. Kimberly Horn was given, or rather asked for and received, a fee of $4,100 to complete and send in that grant. Unfortunately, it was rejected. Okay, so we're $4,100 minus. I have been studying grants for a while, okay? I subscribe to actually it's called a grant finding service, and in my spare time, I don't watch television, I go and look at grants. And I have learned much. And some of the things that apply to the scoring of grants, the criteria, lists that these grants, how they are judged, the rubrics that are used, that is what determines the acceptance of a grant and consideration for the federal government, the state government, or whatever, to then give funds to that municipality or community. The USDA grant, I didn't think we had much of a shot, and there's a couple reasons very quickly why. One of the problems with Dunnellon is we only have 1,900 people to serve. And when you send a grant in asking for a new police structure, when we already do have a police building for the amount over $2.some million, that is something that is considered. It puts us down on the list. Like down on the list for consideration. The other is location. Now, this particular grant that is we're considering today to apply for, the criteria is to assist those communities that were impacted in 2016 and 2017 by the presidential declared disasters. Dunnellon did not suffer much, okay? as compared to, for example, just about every county up in the Panhandle. Their communities looked like they were bombed out, literally. And yes, they had insurance to cover their structures and so on, but what they also lost was a lot of their infrastructure that was not covered by insurance, such as roadways, sewer, water systems, and so on, that they had to quickly get back online and probably took money out of their general funds to do such repairs. So where does Dunnellon stand on a list of how hard we have been hit by those disasters? Well, I'll let you consider, because you were here, I was here, as compared to what we saw happen to those Panhandle counties. So I think they're going to be bumped up when it comes to consideration. The other problem I have is with the fee of $15,000. The USDA grant, Kimley Horn charged $4,100. Okay, $4,100, not a huge amount of money. Now suddenly, this grant, they are asking to compensate for their services the sum of $15,000, which is a difference of $11,000. I would like an explanation, why such a jump in fees from Kimley Horn?
CDBG grants entail more work, more documentation.
Jan, speak into the microphone.
I'm sorry. CDBG grants historically entail more work involved in applying for a grant versus other grants. That's the only explanation I can offer you.
Okay.
Just, excuse me, I think you're going to have to repeat that because the phone thing was falling off and we couldn't hear you, so I know the audience who's trying to listen probably didn't hear you either.
CDBG grants entail a lot of work, a lot of documentation. Historically, they have always done that. That's the only explanation I can offer you versus the USDA grant. The chief and I applied for a USDA grant, and it only took a couple hours.
Right.
CDBG grants, based on those grants that we've had, take days to gather the documentation. That's the only explanation I can offer without having Allison speak to it directly.
Okay, that probably pretty much ends my comments specifically for this issue.
Okay, thank you. Vice Mayor?
Yeah, I think 15,000, it is a hit. Jan, how much do we have in our funds for grants?
Nothing specifically earmarked for grants,
Right.
but council does have a contingency of $49,000 that, based on the Little League, we're dipping into, and it depends on how we end up at the end of the year. If we need to pull from unrestricted reserve, I would bring a budget amendment back before council. Typically, we don't spend our entire budget, so we don't have to further dip into reserves, but until the year ends, you never know.
And the year ends in?
September 30th.
Okay, just making sure. I knew it was
And-
September, October.
And budget amendments have to be brought before council by November 30th. We are nowhere near closing out the year, so if I do a preliminary overview, if I feel just in case, so we're in compliance with statute, I might ask council to do a budget amendment.
And question, would, let's say if they only need to bill us for 10,000, that they're able to get all the information, I mean, is it 15 flat, or is it, if they don't work as many hours, that it can be reduced?
I did not ask that question, but knowing Kimley Horn, if they don't have the hours in that they project, we will receive a lesser bill.
Bill,
Yes. And that's just based on all our years working with Kimley Horn.
Thank you.
Ms. Kinney?
Well, this is a new board, a new administration, you might say. And when I look back at the Souls Harbor Church, I believe we were talking about the Souls Harbor Church in March of 2020. So we have been struggling, the city, not just this administration, but the previous administration. We have been working with this issue for a considerable time. Now we hear from public input that there has been a survey, and the survey, evidently, if I understood it correctly, was sent out to registered voters. Registered voters are those people who are paying the bills. And if this is in fact something that the registered voters are trying to communicate with the council, I think it would be prudent to table this at least until we heard the results of the survey.
Thank you. Ms. Williams?
Well, I do have a few comments. And I have been thinking and pondering about our police department. Law enforcement, primary responsibility to prevent, detect crime, enforce the penal, criminal, traffic, highway laws of the state. We're all sitting comfortable in our nice homes. My home was built in 1964, and I spent a lot of money because this is just enough for me and my husband. I spent a lot of money on my house because I want to be comfortable. In my employment with the state of Florida, when we relocated to a building that was very nice, and it was very spacey, and it did something to the attitude of the people. You know, we were just glad to go to work. I've been in Dunnellon for 66 years. That building was built before I was even born. Sure, it can be repaired. I'm sure it can. It can be repaired. But what about the space? They can't even add on. The parking lot is limited. I understand we have 4 military veterans on our law enforcement. 4 military veterans who have laid down their lives for the citizens of this country. And we're having a hard time giving these people a decent place to work. They're crammed up in that building that they have. And you know, like I said, we're in the comfort of our own homes. These people are out and about, riding to and fro to protect our streets, protect our citizens. They are putting their lives on the line for all of us. I'm sure that there are times that they have gotten off of their jobs, they have gone home to their families to enjoy their families. Then something happens and they might be called back out, putting their lives on the line. Don't even know if they're going to be going back to their families. And we're having a hard time giving our police department a decent place to work with more space. Thinking about Marion County, Citrus County, Bellevue, from what I understand, have a nice police department. Ocala has a nice police department. Williston has a nice police department. Our police department needs more room. Sure, it can be fixed up, but you don't have, there's no parking hardly. You can't even extend. If you extend, what you gonna do with the parking? You know, we're sitting in the comfort of our own homes. We're comfortable. God forbid if one of us would need one of these police officers. And I think they ought to have a decent place to work with more space. Thank you.
Thank you, Ms. Williams. Thank you. I'll make a few comments on it. I try to keep it as a business decision where council was asked, this piece of property is for sale for $325,000. Along with the building, it has 60, how many parking spots does it have with it, Troy?
Souls Harbor, I'm not sure.
Okay, 60 or more parking spaces. So the whole idea was, speaking with Jan at length through the finances, that if we purchase that for $325,000 with the 60 spaces, in order for us to go forward with it, the wise decision to go about it would be to depend that the majority of the money needed for the retrofit would have to come through grants. Even though Ms. Smith has said if we scrape all of our nickels together, we might have come up with the original estimate to retrofit it of $800,000. She highly recommended that that would pretty much take our discretionary money, and the city can't run like that. So we went into this knowing if we purchased it for $325,000, we would have to apply for grants. So that's what this council is looking at right now. This is a finished business. Finished business meaning a previous council bought this building and earmarked it to be a police station / community center. And it was very much understood and accepted that from that point after purchasing it, before we could go forward, we would have to check out the possibility of getting grants. I, at the time, thought that we should have those answers before we bought it, and I opposed it. But with that said, council did do it, and that's what we're looking at right now. So if you boil this down, where are we at right now? What this means is this grant is the attempt to get this police station built and funded nearly totally, if not totally, by a grant, which was the whole purpose of buying the church for that purpose, for that reason. It would be my expectation if we applied for these grants and we were turned down, then that would negate our ability to go forward. Then we would be looking at, okay, we have the building. What do we do? Do we make it into a community center? With the possibility in the future it could be a police station. What do we do? But right now, what this discussion is clearly in line with what the plan was. Buy the building, secure it, apply for grants, see if we can get the grants, and see if we can go forward. So boil it down, what is this? Well, we're risking another up to $15,000 to get the grant. So we have the $325,000 that we bought it for, plus the additional expenses since we closed in November. And now to get our answer, whether we can go forward, we have to come up with another $15,000. And Jan, on that $15,000, is that fee just a solid $15,000, or does that mean up to $15,000?
That I really can't answer. Councilwoman Hanchar had asked the same thing.
Right.
Oh, sorry. It's a maximum of $15,000.
All right, so the worst case scenario, the point I'm trying to make is the worst case scenario is we apply for this grant, we come up with $15,000. Worst case scenario, we're turned down. Now we have the building with no way to go forward, and we've put another $15,000 into the building. So that's really where we're at. We haven't gotten askew off the road with what was the original thought and the original idea, the original plan. So that's my comment. Yes, we'll go down the line. You got anything to say?
If we go back to what happened, or what's happened in the last 6 months or whatever, in the continuous discussion about the Souls Harbor Church, I would like to take us back just a little bit further when Mayor Bill White was a council person, and he did come up with a Plan C or a B, and that was, and I remember him saying it and contemplating on it, that was possibly a doable, was to go ahead and market the Souls Harbor Church. Say, just pretend, okay, let's play pretend, because we do occasionally do that here, when we go through our wish lists. What if we sold that, the city did market that church, and we got $500,000 for it? Okay, we do have a city property out there which is by our Public Works Maintenance Yard. We have utilities, like right there, that have to be obviously land excavation done. But we could take that $500,000 and start looking at a modular building. They're wonderful. They hold up well to hurricanes. And $500,000 plus the city kick in another 500,000, maybe 400,000 less. And we would have probably a police palace for our police department, all spanking brand new with a big conference room. And we wouldn't be in the hole, and we wouldn't continue to have a conflict within what the people of this community want and what is being decided here as far as writing more checks for grants that I think are long shots. And I think this coming up grant is a long shot. I don't have any problems with the dedication of our police, even though there have been some problems and so on. But I think I would love to see this distraction end and get a police station built. And I don't think necessarily it has to be on the site of the Souls Harbor Church. And
Thank you. Okay.
That wasn't necessary. And also add one other comment. I agree with Louise that we need to table this until we get the rest of the survey, because we are here to represent the people of Dunnellon who go to the polls, who pay the taxes, and they keep telling us that they don't want $2.7 million spent on a police station. Whether we receive grants or not, there's better ways to deal with this problem. They have a problem with the location of the Souls Harbor Church out there in the historic district. And that area could be used for something else. Historic Town Center. Or sell it, recoup the revenues and reinvest in a brand new police station over there. As I said, modular buildings, it would be fantastic. I believe that's all I had to say, sir.
Thank you. Vice Mayor?
All right. Just to clarify, nobody ever said it was going to cost $2.7 million to renovate the new police department slash. That was not what she.
That's an official statement produced by our administration. Okay, it's written. It's an
Ms.
official
Kovich,
public document.
Vice Mayor has the floor.
Excuse me.
That document that you just showed, by the way, Mrs. Smith said that those were estimates that she pulled and that there was not from any contractors or any authority, her just trying to go for the moon. She and I discussed it, and that was not a good estimate. We've already figured that out. So let's go there. Again, we had many, many meetings, public meetings. This was not done behind closed doors. This was all done out in the open. And although past councils, all but two, were here, this was not a behind the door type of process. It was out front. Everybody knew what we were doing. And the council proceeded as we were being directed. As far as a survey that some group has put together, I applaud them for their efforts. I think it is amazing. However, I cannot, in good faith, sit up here and do my job just for the registered voters of the city of Dunnellon. They are not my boss. The whole entire city is my boss. Every person who votes and does not vote for whatever reason they choose is our boss, not just registered voters. So that is one thing that we should make very clear to the public, that all give us direction, not just registered voters. I understand that they go out and vote. However, I represent every single person in this city limits of Dunnellon. So that is to be very clear. I don't care that the police have a beautiful location. That is not our job up here. Our job, however, is to ensure that any of our staff members have facilities that are functioning properly that are sufficient to supply them with the things that they need. As we've said before, we had snakes coming out of walls. We had termites the other day. There are, and it's funny because I was talking to a young lady today, and she's like, oh, the police department. She goes, yeah, our Girl Scouts did tours up there, and the kids couldn't believe the smell that was in there because it smelled so bad and how small it was. These are Girl Scouts, kids. They got it. So, again, it's not all about it being beautiful and it being shiny. That's not the issue here. It's because this is what needs to happen. So I, of course, I hate that it's 15,000. Would love for it to be less. But we need to move on. And we do not sit up here and wait for a poll to do our jobs. We have to do our jobs every day. And I know for a fact that I have at least 7 people that I know for a fact that are registered voters that did not receive that poll, so.
Okay.
But again, I applaud them for doing that job. That was very kind of them.
Thank you. Ms. Kenny, your second comment, please.
My second comment is that I see us still struggling with something that is being close to a year and a half since its inception. I don't think that anybody that I have spoken to is opposed to having a police station. We want one that would be equivalent to the size of the department that we have, one that would be representative of our interest in doing whatever we can for those in blue. But the idea that we have to spend millions of dollars in order to accomplish that is not something that this council person thinks is necessary. And given the fact that we know that we're going to also need an architectural opinion, which is supposed another $39,000 in order to find out exactly what the cost is, these dollars start to mount significantly. I see nothing wrong with extending the period of time in which we make our consideration. And certainly, I think if anybody wants to come and speak to the council, whether they're registered or not, that is fine. But our registered voters that are taking an interest in the city is what we have always asked for. One of the problems that this city has had in the past is the complacency of our citizens. So if we could do anything to engender their interest and to support them in the kind of vision that they have, then that is something I feel is why I'm sitting in this seat. And so I am definitely not interested in going forward with more money. I'm interested first in hearing what the citizens had to say with their survey.
Thank you. Ms. Williams, would you like to speak again?
Nope.
You said it all, right? So I don't have too much to say other than to try to reiterate that as a businessman, as a business deal, I was looking at it. I bought this piece of property for $325,000 with plans to do something based on my ability to get a loan. So I bought it before I had the answer to that. Now I find out it's going to cost me extra money to apply for a loan so I can find out whether or not I can go forward with my project. So the decision I have as a businessman is, do I put up that extra money to see if I can get a loan so I can go forward, or do I cut bait and run and say, well, I don't want to come up with the additional money to get my answer. I didn't expect to have to come up with additional money to get the answer, So I'll try to get out of the business and get out of the deal I made and do the best I can. Maybe I'll come out of it looking good, maybe I'll take a hit, but I would rather to go backwards. So that's really where we're at. The city has bought this building. It's sitting over there right now with our name on it. And it's sitting there empty. And there are absolutely no plans for it at this time. Just sitting there. It's an expense. It's unacceptable for that to just continue to sit there. So where I'm at looking at this, do I feel uncomfortable about getting into this to begin with? Yes, because exactly what we're dealing with is what I predicted was going to happen. I predicted this. I predicted that we didn't have the answers we needed. But it's been done, and I accept that. I was part of the council that did that. I accept that the decision was made. Now you have to say with the decision made, what's your best plan? What do you do with it? Where do you go? So some are suggesting just forget about it, put it up for sale. Some are possibly suggesting let's look at other options for it. Some are saying I want to go forward with the police station and the community center. Don't forget, we do have plans to make this also as a community center. So to get those answers, whether we will get funding, where the money doesn't come out of the city's pocket, it comes up with about another $15,000. That's what this is. And I just want to get in front, I think it's important because we all know agenda item number 10 is coming up on the architect. We can apply for this grant without making a commitment to this architect. So we don't have to commit to the architect until we have an answer for the grant. Is that correct, Jan?
Yes, that's correct.
That takes a lot of pressure off, because if we had to do both of them together, now it's a $54,000 gamble. We have the architect and this, and if we didn't get our grant, we'd be in trouble. So I don't like it. I don't feel comfortable about it. I have inherited something that I have voted against. But I have my business hat on right now. What am I going to do with a decision that was made that has some issues to it? What's the best way to deal with it? And that's how I'm looking. There's no emotion in it to me. It's not about what's the right thing to do or what we should do or who should be taken care of and whatever. I'm just looking at it right now. How do we deal with the situation we've gotten ourselves into? And that's what I have to say.
Before you make a motion, I do have another public comment on this.
Okay,
item.
please.
The public comment that was emailed to me actually covers both items, the next two, the grant and the RFP for the architectural services. Dear Dunnellon City Council, I write to you today in order to encourage you to vote in favor of funding the architect proposal for the proposed police department. Dunnellon is very fortunate to have this opportunity to provide a facility which will provide, number one, a modern, clean, and safe environment for our police officer, two, a location suitable for training and community meetings, three, additional space for historic district parking. This building will serve the constituents and community of Dunnellon for many years to come. We are blessed with excellent community-minded leadership in our police department. Chief McQuaig and his officers model servant leadership as they protect and serve our community. This project has been needed for many years, and now is the time to move forward. A no vote on this proposal will speak clearly to our community. It will say that you have no regard for the men and women who place their lives on the line each day so that the rest of us may go about our business without fear. I will say that you have an agenda that does not, it will say that you have an agenda that does not take care about the safety of our community, and perhaps most loudly, it will say that you have no vision for the true needs of our community. Council, I implore you to move forward on this project, a project that will have a positive impact for generations to come. Thank you, Russ Randall, Pastor, First Baptist Church, Dunnellon.
Thank you very much. Okay. No? Mandy, is there anything else?
I have nothing else.
No. Okay, do we have a motion from council?
Yes, I authorize the mayor to sign Kimberly Horn IPO number 92 agreement, number AGR 2021-05, grant preparation and writing services for the Dunnellon Police Station in the amount of up to $15,000.
We have a second.
I second.
Motion by Vice Mayor, a second by Ms. Williams. Again, now that we have made a motion and a second, it does allow council, if we wish, to make another comment, if you would like to speak anything. Ms. Kevich?
I'd like to make another comment, especially since we've now restated that the fee would be up to 50,000.
15.
I'm sorry.
Don't freak me out there, girlfriend.
Yeah, I apologize. I'm thinking before I'm speaking, or speaking before I'm thinking, rather. Up to 15,000. Is it possible we go to the table with Kimley Horn and renegotiate this fee? I mean, because if I was Kimley Horn and I knew that I had presented this invoice that will perform the services for 15,000, and then I get no comeback, no negotiation, well, it's a done deal for Kimley Horn. Okay, I would strongly suggest we go back and negotiate. Offer them $7,000. Okay, if they did the last one for $4,100, I don't see why we should pay $15,000 for this grant. You know, I have a pretty good idea how much per hour they are making, even if they had 2 people working on this. Okay, grants are not that difficult. Yes, they're time consuming, and you have to have very specific numbers and information, but I don't see where this grant justifies a $15,000 fee. Let's go for half. Put it on the table for them, negotiate.
Vice Mayor?
I would just like for them to see if they can come down, but that's why I'm still saying up to 15,000. So if you could ask them, that would be amazing.
Ms. Kenny?
Well, in terms of another 15,000, I'm not willing to accept that. I have some other questions in regard to the quote, police/community center. With some of the people who have reached out to me as interested citizens, there has been some concern that it's 6,500 square feet divided for dual use between the police and a community center is really not viable space for a community center. I think that if we were to carefully look at the money that we think is available in grant funding as well, that we should be able for over $1 million to be able to build something for the police and have Souls Harbor Church for a community center. I'm in favor of a community center, but I would feel very disappointed if people thought they were having a community center, and in fact, it turned out that they did not, that they would literally only be able to be involved in those very few things like maybe wrapping presents at Christmas time or special events. But we would need a real community center in this town. We need a place for exercising. We need a place for communicating. We need a place for support for those who are getting older and who have families that are far away and could not reach out to them in their need. So I am all for a community center, but I am not for a community center that would be less, that would also be a dual use purpose with the police. I just think they're incompatible. That does not mean that I don't think that the police and the community should talk to one another, that the police should go out and certainly find out who is living in the city and what their needs are, and that the citizens should be extremely grateful for the police and the things that they do. Of course we should. I have nothing but admiration for the police. I think that we could build them something that would be truly satisfactory. We could build them something that would be energy efficient. It wouldn't be retrofitting a very large building that would turn out to be difficult for us to maintain. If you have to harden 30 windows, you're not going to get a whole lot of light in there for a community center. You're not going to be able to exercise with any music in the background so that you could take advantage of what you thought you were going to have. You certainly would be limited, I would think, in terms of the needs of the police. The police should have their own facilities, and that is my belief.
Thank you. Ms. Williams? Okay. Just something real brief. I think the suggestion of up to $15,000 that was made in itself suggests that we can negotiate and make that clear, that up to $15,000 rather than $15,000. So when we approach Kimberly Horn and say we are willing to, we can do it, we can throw out a figure if we want, but I think the motion that was made up to $15,000 suggests that it could be less than $15,000, correct? I said.
Well, it can, but if you're looking at the IPO, find the section where it speaks to the dollar amount.
Third page. I'm sorry, the first page. No.
It does say lump sum fee basis of $15,000.
Where was that written?
It's the very last sentence on page 3. I apologize, I didn't look sooner. So up to, I can speak to Allison and see if she can try and trim it, but this is their best estimate on how many hours worth of work they're going to need to put in using the personnel that they'll need to use. If it's just Allison or if they need somebody else on their staff to assist, I can't speak to that.
And let me just make one more comment, and then we'll roll down the line again if we need to. It's important to note that if we do apply for this grant, and we are turned down and we don't get it, we still own the building to do whatever we may want to do with it. So if it's beyond, at that point, because we don't have the funding to turn it into a police station, it can be a standalone community center. That building can serve a purpose now that 3 years or 5 years from now, the city at a different time may decide to have a different use for it. But I do think the purchase of that building for $325,000, along with that 60 parking spots in this real estate market, was an excellent buy. That parking alone, when we do things, it's just not for today. It's for the residents 5, 10, 20 years from now. We're living in a city that there was a city council 50 years ago that made decisions that we're benefiting from today. We don't know it, but they made those decisions. And capturing this problem and capturing that key big piece of property right in an area that over time is going to be worth a lot of money, you know, along with the parking and historic section. That is something that could be valuable in the future. So where I'm at with it, we're trying to get the funding. If we get the funding, fine. If we don't get the funding, we're right back to where we are right now. What are we going to do? If at that time, what do we want to do is we need to cut bait and run, council can decide that. It'll cost you $15,000 to get that answer, but you can do that. But I don't know how we can have committed this much into this and have this kind of money tied up into it, and then we're on the precipice of trying to get an answer, can we go forward or not, for $15,000, and then say, no, we're not going to do that. That was the whole idea and the way we were going to buy it to begin with. We were going to buy it and then see how we can get financing, and that's what we're trying to do. So as far as that $15,000, Ms. Covage, it looks like what we have in the agreement is a flat fee of $15,000. So what are you proposing?
I have a question first. When is this grant due? What's the due date on the grant?
Due date?
Yes.
It needs to be submitted by September 10th.
September 10th. That is great news. I agree with Louise. We should table this discussion and have another go-round at it after that survey puts in. And I would encourage that we put something in the Riverland News that people could ask for a card to respond to this survey. If people did not get enough cards and for the voters in their household or whatever, let's advertise this. Let's get more input from our community to find out how they want to spend Dunnellon City money. I don't think that we should make a decision today until we have more response for the public. And I'd like to reiterate about Plan C, and that is to build a new police station over there on the Dunnellon municipal property down by the maintenance yard and so on.
Okay.
I think.
Let me get out of order, Jan or Mandy. If the due date for this grant is September, first week of September, we would have to, normally you would want to apply ahead of that date with your information, correct? You wouldn't wait necessarily to the last minute, or it doesn't make any difference?
It doesn't make any difference, but you have to realize how much time does it take to put all the
Complete it,
information
right.
together. That's my only point, is you're cutting our grant writer's time basically in half to get it done. See, this way she has approximately 2 months to get
Well,
it all.
what I'd like to see is a motion that would give us the ability to go back to Kimberly Horn and say, we are willing to pay up to, in other words, to give you a chance to see if we can do a little bit better than the $15,000. They say no, they say no. What's lost?
Whatever council directs.
Okay.
Question.
Vice Mayor?
I was just looking at our schedule. Regardless of what we do with that building, okay? And I know I'm kind of going on number 10 just a little bit, but it just kind of goes in with this one as well. So, we had already budgeted this year, at last year's budget, we budgeted $54,000 for architecture company, right? And in our next motion, we have that we're spending $39,000 of that $54,000, correct?
Yes, budget was 56.
Oh, 56, okay, my apologies, it's my brain. So anyway, it might be more prudent of us to go ahead and kind of do like what you just said, Mr. Mayor, as to maybe take number 8, or number 9, the 15,000, see if they can do less, come back and readdress it July 7th, or July 12th, excuse me, knowing that we're going to have to help them. But don't we have some of the information from the last grant that we can push forward to this as well?
It'll have to be adjusted because the last grant was 2.7 million.
Right, no,
But
but
that's, it depends on what this grant requires.
Right.
So like letters of community support, of course, a budget can be redrawn.
Right.
It just depends on what additional items would be needed. We can get them, whatever they need, we will make sure they have.
Right. And Chief, hi, hon. Question. For our architect, and I'm just going blank, so I need some information from you. What was her turnaround time on her report to us?
To get the reports to us,
Yes, sir.
I don't recall the turnaround time, but she can start working on it immediately.
What?
For the 39,000.
Correct. And what I'm trying to ascertain is that if we could get her to turn it around very quickly and get it back to us by July 7th, that way we would then know exactly what we need to retrofit that building. Be it because no matter what we do, beside for the evidence room, be it a community center where people get to play basketball inside or exercise or whatever, we're gonna have to retrofit it, regardless of what we do with this building. So if we have that information in a timely manner, then we could go, if we still are inclined to go with the new grant or see something different. Would that work for you? I mean, would that be something that you think could possibly happen, sir?
All I can do is call her and tell her, and ask her. She is very much engaged, because she did reduce her price.
Yes, sir, she did.
A lot, and she's very much engaged, and so we're on her to check.
Vice Mayor, we do have a motion and a second on the floor, and we are supposed to be limiting our discussion to that motion.
Well, it is, but I mean, but it kind of worked in. If I'm willing to take my motion off, I was trying to find out. I kind of had to go to number 10 to get to number 9.
I do understand. Anything else, Ms. Kennedy? Yes.
Yes, Council, one of the things I would like to bring to your attention, and this does go to number 10, but all number 10 is basically an acceptance of that number, and then further direction would be to go forth and actually create a contract. So 10 does not enter into a contract with the architect. That's simply saying, okay, the number looks good, but we still have to bring back a contract. So there is no current contract, and it has to go through the CCNA process. So there are negotiations that still need to take place under that process.
I think that I haven't changed my mind. I think that we need to hear from the public, and I do think that we need to table it for the present time until we get the reaction from the public.
There we go.
Amen.
Okay, Ms. Roberts, would you please read the motion?
Yes, Vice Mayor Hanchard made a motion to authorize the mayor to sign Kimley Horn, IPA number 92, agreement AGR 2021-05, grant preparation and writing services for the Dunnellon Police Station in the amount up to $15,000.
Very good. Okay, I want to end discussion. I think we have really aired this out. All in favor? All in favor of the motion?
Aye.
Aye. Aye. Opposed?
Nay.
Nay.
Passes 3-2. Okay, we go to number 10, which is, as council described, a loosely worded statement about going into discussion with the architect to see if we would be agreeable to pay $39,000. Before council makes comment on that, public comment on number 10. Anybody signed up for number 10? Yes, please.
Aaron Kramer, pastor over at First Baptist Church of Dunnellon, and just want to talk about just this idea of getting an architect and everything. First, just want to say to the council, just appreciate your hard work and just the things that you're trying to do to better our city. Very grateful for y'all. I do pray for y'all all the time, and just praying for wisdom and all those things and protection and all those things that we need. At the same time, I'm just a little discouraged personally, just that we haven't took care of our police department as quickly as we have. And I know that this is a business and there's a budget. At the same time, this thing has been lingering for I don't know how long, for years and years and years. And so I'm encouraged today, one, that we're all talking about this. That's encouraging. And that we're wanting to better our police department for the future. I believe this community of Dunnellon is special. I think it's about community and relationships. And most of all, I believe that the city of Dunnellon is about trust. And so the job that you have before you is to find the citizens here at Dunnellon to trust you. And the other side of that is for the citizens of Dunnellon to trust our police department. The police department, Chief McQuaid, they have earned our trust. And so when they say they need something more to protect our city, our town, I trust them. I trust them that they're willing to lay down their life for me and for my family. And I'm grateful for that. And I know that this is a business, but at the same time, relationships are real. And so we can better this community by adding and buying and doing all kinds of things with the monies. But at the end of the day, that relationship between the community and our police department is so important, especially with the society that we live in today, the divisiveness that we see across the board. How beautiful would it be for our nation, for Dunnellon itself, to lead in the idea that hey, these people can look from the outside and say, wow, I want to come here because we are taking care of our leaders. And so I have seen the police department, I have smelled the police department. And whether it is this church over here, Souls Harbor, or something else, my hope is that we would do something, because these men and women, their decision to lay down their life for us personally every single day, I have a problem just with the idea that we enjoy the freedoms that we have, and yet we mistreat those that are willing to protect us. And so I know that we don't look at the police department in that way, but at the end of the day, the budget speaks volumes on how we take care of those. Thank you for your time.
Thank you so much. Thank you. Anyone else that would like to speak to item number 10? Yes, Pastor Tom.
Tom Welch, P.O. Box 143, Dunnellon, Florida 34432. I just want to speak about the Police Department Community Center a little bit more as well. I certainly appreciate everybody on council and looking for the best avenue in which this city should travel to come to a really feasible decision on this. I just want to touch base on the survey to all the registered voters. I can appreciate the folks wanting to take a survey. We also have to remember that when those registered voters voted for this council, they were saying with their vote, we're voting for you because we trust you. So sometimes the survey can be beneficial and sometimes it can kind of usurp what is already in place. So I think we have to walk a fine line on that as far as council and being open to surveys, considered they already voted for you and they trust the decisions that you're going to make. votes speak very loudly. I also want to thank Mr. Hand for clarifying number 10. This should be a no-brainer if the council is not committing to a contract that is in place, meaning signing our name on a dotted line. This is just saying, hey, this 39,000 is a lot better than, I think you said 56,000?
That's what the budget is.
Yeah, 56,000. So what council is basically saying, according to, unless I misunderstood Mr. Hand, is that this 39,000 is a lot better than what we had budgeted, and we're not committing to a signed contract. There's a lot of numbers being tossed around. I think it's very important to make an educated decision that we have the information that is correct. We need some numbers to make an educated decision on this. We can't go on hearsay because then we're not making an educated decision. So I think it's very important that our numbers are right so that when you make that decision, you can say conclusively, we can afford it, we can't afford it. So that's all I'd like to say. I am in favor of the police station and a community center, as I gave my opinion at the workshop on Monday, and I certainly appreciate everybody wanting the best for this city because that's what we all want. Thank you.
Thank you very much. Anyone else in the audience? Yes. Mrs. Eno?
Suzanne Eno, 9220 Southwest 193rd Circle, Dunnellon. I would like to say that why are we applying for grants unless you feel fairly certain that it's obtainable? I heard by the grapevine that the one that we paid that y'all paid $4,000 for was absolutely not attainable, even before it was applied for. Now, that was by the grapevine, but that was what I heard. So I would say to you, look at the grant, see what it requires, and see if you can meet that criteria. Because if it is to help people like Councilwoman Cubbage said, people hit by disaster, we don't stand a snowball's chance, and you know where, of getting a grant compared to the counties that were severely devastated. So I don't see any point in applying for something you know you're not going to get. And the other thing is the registered voters were surveyed, and only about 20% have responded. Now, what the other people who are not registered, you have no idea what they think because they've never been surveyed. So they're moot unless you want to do your own survey. So I think that it would be wonderful for the city council to provide a better police station, but I think if the members of the city prefer roads to be number one instead of the police station, that should be addressed.
Thank you very much. Anyone else? Yes.
Finally, you get up here. Third time.
Hopefully it's worth waiting for.
Third time was a charm.
My name is Wendy Sams, and I live at 11580 Camp Drive, Dunnellon, Florida. And I think after listening today to some of the discussion, I think grant selection needs to be even more important than just applying and paying people to apply for this grant. It doesn't sound like the particular grant that you're going after is really applicable to this situation. So I think we may just be wasting more money. So if the selection of the grant, if we're going to be paying this company not only to write it, maybe some guidance on what grants might be out there that might be more applicable for this situation than that one.
because I think our chances of actually getting that are pretty low, because there's going to be a lot of counties out there that had, or cities, that had a lot bigger need than what we're trying to demonstrate, and we're not going to get the money, is what I think. But, so maybe grant selection needs to be a little bit more a priority. The other thing is there's a big difference. I think one thing that the voters did is that they did change the council members, and that's what the election was about. And I think closing on this property between the one group and then we elected, the electors came in, there was no way to turn down the property. The closing date was between one group being in and the next group coming on. So I think when the voters spoke with their votes, it had no impact on this property because that decision had been made before people said, look, we're not happy with that. So I think there was a voice there. There was some telling by the voters that they were not happy with the decision that was made. So.
She's not discussing item number 10, and that's what we're.
Okay, so item number 10 has to do with retrofitting a piece of property that the voters are not probably in favor of. And also when you're going to retrofit something, it is purpose-driven. So if we're going to make it a community center, then the architectural drawings and things need to reflect that. If we're not going to put the police station there, then paying someone or having this agreement with them is going to be wasted money. So that's where I'm coming down on.
Thank you, okay. Very, very good, thank you. Anyone else that would like to speak to item number 10? Yes, Mr. Porter.
Hi, I'm Dave Porter at 11835 East Blue Cove Drive. I grew up in Dunnellon, and my dad was a policeman when I was young. And at the time, it was well known that we only had one police car. It was a Nash Rambler, and everybody could outrun it. We also used to only have one policeman on duty at a time. And the coal rail cars would go through Dunnellon, and it'd take about 30 minutes to go through. So it didn't take long for the criminals to figure out if they were on the other side of the coal train, when the train went by, that they could rob all the stores before the police could get by. So those are all silly stories, but Dunnellon has always had a history of short-sightedness on the fire department and the police department. Mr. Randall and the Dunnellon Press used to always write about that. But the important piece of this is that the police in Dunnellon are extremely important, just like they are in all the nation. So we're worried about community centers and we're worried about street repaving. That's because we don't have crime in Dunnellon right now, because the chief and his staff are doing a great job in adverse conditions. So if we start getting a lot of homeless people and we start getting encampments of people all over the place with needles and drugs and stuff like that, you'll stop worrying about a community center and start worrying about your own safety. So our police staff, they deserve a place that they can do business, to have pre-job briefs, to have meetings with other people. And I've been in the police station several times. Not arrested, but have meetings. And it's not an impressive place. You should be able to take your children to where you work and be proud, right? And we have a beautiful city hall. We should have a functioning police station. So this is a business decision. Dunnellon made a great deal by buying that building. It's worth it to invest some money to figure out how much it's going to be to finish this project. It's worth the money to invest in writing a grant to see if you can get money for the project. And so if it doesn't work out from those two items, then you can sell it and you recoup the money you've put into it. So it's not really a net loss, but you can't make a good business decision without facts. And you need facts. You need to figure out, can you get a grant? Does it fill all the slots? And to fill that out, you need to figure out the architectural costs. and how to design it. So I'm very much for supporting our police and having a nice police station. It's time. A lot of people have been working on it. It's time. Thank you.
Thank you for your comments. Anyone else? Okay, we have finished public comments. We are still on number 10. Now it's time for council to give its comments. Before we spend a lot of time on this, please be aware that we now know that going forward, approving whatever with this number 10 to 39,000 is not necessary before we go forward with what we've already passed with number 9.
Mayor, may I make a suggestion?
Yes.
Can we go ahead and ask for a motion and then have our discussions instead of doing the discussions and the motion and the discussions?
Correct. Okay, Ms. Cubbage.
Can you ask for a motion?
A motion?
Discussions?
You can do that. Is there, council, you have to open it up for comment first, correct? Before a motion or not?
You can have comment either at either time, but generally speaking, it can be discussed beforehand, and then you can have discussion following, but there's no requirement.
So if someone jumps in and makes a motion and it's seconded, then you go straight to discussion.
Yes.
What does council think about that?
I was just trying to make stuff, never mind.
Trying to move things
Y'all do it?
forward?
Yeah. That way we still get to
Well,
discuss.
let's,
Do it the old way, that's fine.
okay. Ms. Cubbage, what do you have to say on number 10?
On number 10, I think that if you add $39,000, which is the fee for the architect, part in architecture, to $15,000 for the grant, now we're signing off on $54,000. And I still think there's a better plan than to continue putting money into a project when there is an alternative. Also, I'd like to make a comment regarding a public comment that was made that used the word mistreating our police force. And I don't want to get off track or anything, but Troy, I'd like to ask you a question. I've asked you this one-to-one personally, but how many work orders have been given to you since Mike McQuaig, our chief of police, was hired 6 years ago for repairs? How many, on things that were seriously wrong at the police station?
On major topics or major ticket items for the police department, not many work orders have been submitted in the fact that we've tried every year to either find them an alternative location moving forward or looking into what the building would actually require. So our work order history on the building is for small items, bathroom repairs, some lighting repairs, basic stuff. But as it's been mentioned earlier, we've been on this topic now for a year and a year prior to that. And if you don't mind me saying, I've worked for the city now for 25 years, and this has been a big ticket item every year. So I think it's not the lack of wanting work orders submitted, it's the trying to find that direction from council. Are we going to retro the old building, or are we going to look into a new location? Can't do both. Can't do both. So I appreciate the question. There has been no big ticket item work orders submitted.
And I appreciate your answer also, and I'd just like to say I don't think this is the final discussion on what should be done for our police department. And I have high regard for our police personnel. Come to know some of them personally. Some have been former students of ours at Dunnellon High School. I understand their responsibilities. And I also think that there should be that police station has immediate needs that should be taken care of and should have been taken care of. But this has been a huge distraction. And this is a 50-50 here. We either get that grant or we don't. And I'm just cannot say that we have any chance of getting that grant. I think that term spinning our wheels applies to this. And I'd like to end my conversation right there. Thank you.
Vice Mayor?
Again, we have to get this done regardless of what we want to do over there. And so, and it's already been looked at, putting the police department at one time over by the public works department. There's just not enough room. That was looked into earlier, last 2 years ago, or whenever we all started this kind of conversation. So I'm going to say in favor of the $39,000, which I applaud Chief and staff on getting them down from the $56,000 that is already in the budget. It is not additional funds that we are looking for to spend. So that was a good thing y'all did. So thank y'all.
Ms. Kenny?
Well, this particular council has not been convened for a long, long period of time. And clearly, we do have a different perspective than the prior council, but that is to be expected. And my vision for the city would certainly be for a new police station. But I do not envision a police station that needed to be 6,500 square feet for a community with fewer than 2,000 people. So my vision would be to continue for grants for a police station that would be more appropriate in size, that would be new rather than retrofitted, that would be energy efficient, and that we would all be very proud of, and that our police would be definitely proud enough to really appreciate that they got something brand new and not retrofitted. So I'm for two things. One, I'm for a new police station, and two, I'm for a community center. A community center is not going to be 6,000 square foot, if we should choose to keep the Soul Harbor Church, would be appropriate for a community center. But if we start hardening it, and there's no sunlight that can come in, and we have all kinds of, obviously the police would be in charge, would appropriately be in charge. It doesn't seem to me like compatible uses for that two to be in the one building. So I think wonderful things will happen to the city of Dunnellon, but I do think common sense and reason should apply, and I am not in favor of the $39,000.
Ms. Williams?
You can move right on.
Okay, let's have a motion and let's move forward. We still have a lot to do.
Accept proposal submitted by Parton Architecture Company in the amount of $39,000 as presented at the June 9, 2021 City Council workshop.
Do we have a second? Yes.
One thing on that motion, this was submitted by Parton Architecture as an agreement. It's not legally sufficient, given that this is a municipality, and most of these agreements are going to be shorter agreements for smaller projects in their eyes. I would just recommend then, if the motion is to go forward, amending it, so to speak, in a manner that is just indicating that staff be authorized to go forward and create a contract based on these numbers. And then what will happen is staff will come back and bring actually that contract back once both parties have taken a look at it, and that'll be what you vote on. So I just want to make it clear in the motion that nothing will be signed, and they're not getting a signed agreement back, so there can be no contesting that the city has not entered into an agreement this time.
That was what my motion said. You just didn't hear it.
And we have a second.
Man, did you get that?
I did.
Good.
there
because I don't
any-
want to repeat.
Is there anybody that wants to make a comment before we take a vote? Okay,
Do I have a second?
yes. Yes? All right, very good. All in favor of going forward with this grant?
Aye.
Aye.
Opposed?
Nay.
Aye.
Nay. It is defeated 3-2, 2-3. Okay. We are now going to number 11. The volunteer program. Sure, we have some people in here who would like to talk to the volunteer program. Do we have anyone signed up, Ms. Mandy?
I don't have anyone else signed up that hasn't already spoken, but someone might want to speak again.
Okay. Would anybody like to speak about the volunteer program, number 11? Okay. Proposed motion, approve the volunteer program application and guidelines as discussed during the June 19th workshop. I guess that had to do with the application and the guidelines?
Yes, we presented that to you at the workshop. I had given you a handout then, and we discussed it briefly. The parameters of the handbook with regard, mainly the concerns I heard about most were requirements for drug screening and background checks. And as Chief suggested, the program handbook would require a local background check and a sexual offender criminal check on all applicants over the age of 18. And drug testing would only be required when they would, if the volunteer were using powered equipment.
And have those that have been involved with the volunteer program, has the input back to you been satisfactory, that they're satisfied with the?
I haven't heard any yays or nays since I brought it to you guys last week on Wednesday.
All right, because the reason I'm asking these questions, I did anticipate someone in the volunteer program to possibly make comment to what they think about the application or they think about the guidelines, so council has a little idea.
They were here last Wednesday.
I will tell you that Ms. Dunn asked me to email it to her last week, and she knew that we were making some revisions to it as we discussed Wednesday, but she just wanted a draft just to take a look at, and she's one of the ones that has really been really excited about this program, and I haven't heard any feedback from her yet.
Okay. Ms. Cubbage, you have any comment on this?
I think it's a great program and agree with all of the documents that are being used to make it go forth.
Vice Mayor?
Go forward.
Kenny?
Absolutely.
Ms. Williams?
I do agree. It will
Okay.
give them some marketable job skills, hopefully.
They could
They
have
can
gone
use
and
on their
sat in the new
resumes.
community fire, police department and had their meetings if we had a police department.
Okay, can we have a motion?
So moved.
Have a second?
Second.
Okay.
We have a motion by the Vice Mayor, seconded by Ms. Kenny. I don't believe there's any discussion. All in favor?
Aye.
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 Opposed? Passes unanimously. All right, we go to number 12, the Dunnellon Little League sponsorship. Mandy, why don't you get up to speed what council had done with that, and we can take
Yeah.
care of this maybe quite quickly.
I did
Or
pull
Troy, you
my
can
notes
speak
on
to it.
this from the
This is
workshop.
Troy's.
Yeah. You can speak to this for us, Mandy,
Okay, great.
if you don't mind. All right, council, earlier, two of you had pointed out to me that we considered this to be on the consent agenda, but I'm kind of glad it was accidentally not put on the consent agenda, because this afternoon I received a text from Adam Parker. Okay, and understand Adam Parker is the president of the league out there. He's extremely excited about our support and the council's support, as well as the citizens. So after last Wednesday's meeting, I made sure I contacted him and asked him to please be here or have a representative here. to thank the council and the community. However, this afternoon, I got a text message from Adam and about the baseball league. Two of our Dunnellon teams are playing in district championship games tonight. So him and a lot of the coaches are involved in that. He was going to try and make it back by the end of the meeting so he could speak. But anyways, he wanted me to relay that to you, and that many of the other members and their wives are working at the games, and I believe the games are being held over in Crystal River. All right? So please, on behalf of the Baseball League, allow me to speak for Adam in saying how appreciative they are of this council and the community's support in getting their lights back on. Okay?
All right, so the discussion was to donate $10,000 to the Little League for the
15.
Additional
It was 15.
10.
It was an additional 10 to
Total
provide that
15.
we've already
Yeah, an
obligated.
additional 10.
Yes.
Okay. Do we have a motion?
Second,
Second? Any discussion?
public comment.
Public comment, yes. Okay, public comment before we take a vote on donating money to the Little League.
I'm sorry, could we back up a little bit? On the Little League, how much the city was going to contribute, how much again?
15,000 total.
Total,
15,000 total?
total. That will complete their light project.
Right. I'd like to make a suggestion. As council people sitting here, we all have some things in common. Louise, Bill, and I were, all three of us were teachers, horse owners. Bill was really embedded in the industry. For those of you who don't recall or remember, he was leading trainer at our Miami racetracks 13 years in a row? Okay.
17.
And I believe, did you have an association with the Steinbrenner family, training their horses?
I have trained for them, yeah.
You have trained for Steinbrenner. George Steinbrenner owned the New York Yankees, and believe it or not, his first love was actually the race horses, and I know this for a fact because I have I trained horses, handled horses for someone who was in the sports world in a big way, and they have been to his farm and also to his suite at Yankee Stadium, and they said there's pictures of his racehorses all over the walls. So Steinbrenners own a farm, sizable farm here in Marion County. It's called Kinsman Stud. The Steinbrenner family has a foundation. It's called the Steinbrenner Family Foundation, and they support the Little League programs in the Tampa Bay area in a really big way. Well, because of their continuing involvement in the racehorse industry, they are here in Marion County. Jessica Steinbrenner, I believe it's Jessica is her name, was a former teacher. In spite of her family's millions and millions and millions, maybe $1 billion, she graduated from college and taught kindergarten. Okay, so, and her children played Little League, just like my stepchildren and my grandchildren and so on played Little League. I would suggest that council put together a letter asking for matching funds from the Steinbrenner Family Foundation to help support our Little League here in our area. Steinbrenner Farm is literally a 14-minute drive from where we sit right here. And I would help draft that letter, assist in any way I can. I would like for all of us council people to relate that we have horses and we have children, and a few of us have been educators. And I'd like to ask the Steinbrenner Family Foundation again for a matching grant of that $15,000, so we could hand $30,000 over to our Dunnellon Little League organization.
Does anybody on council have an issue with
How that would
allowing-
work, they'll either say yes and send us
Yeah.
a check, or they'll say no.
So
Okay?
if Jan's willing to do that, everybody on
think that'd
council
be
willing
great.
to let her?
I think it's a great idea too.
Mr. Andrew?
Seeing this would be city council action. You know, typically ethics statutes and so forth apply to individual council members. I do know that there are, under Chapter 496, some rules regarding solicitation of funds. I would just want to check that out to make sure that there's no issues, but I haven't seen a situation in the past where that I'm aware of where that has been, but I just want to double check.
Hey, Jan.
You understand what I was asking him?
Attorney Hand's going to get back with us to
Make sure that we can ask for
make
funds,
sure
for
that we
matching
can,
funds and
yeah,
not violate any.
right.
Okay,
Okay, yeah, I understand that,
And if there's no
yes.
problems, council's okay
Yeah.
with
And
you.
if not, then of course, I'm sure that the Little League team can write that letter stating that they have the support of their council, of their city, to
They-
do something as that.
They have a strong support from a couple of citizens that are very well capable of writing grants or small grants of that nature. And if the council is not permitted to reach out to the Steinbrenners, then I will lead them to that,
Thank
if
you.
that's okay.
That's a super idea.
Okay.
Thank you.
But given the history of a couple of the individual council members, I think it'd be a phenomenal, plus a strong show of our council and citizen support for our Little League in the fields.
Okay, we have a motion and a second on the floor to give an additional $10,000 to the Little League. Above, it's a total up to 15, correct?
Correct. I believe, I don't believe we had a motion yet. We're having
we
a
did.
discussion.
Yeah, we had motions, didn't you make the motion?
I did.
Then I seconded?
Okay,
Oh, don't confuse me.
all right, all in favor?
Aye.
Opposed?
Next.
All right, we're actually now where I've been itching to get to since we started. We are at item number 13. I'm going to talk about three topics right here: the Florida Wildlife Commission boat ramp agreement, the Blue Run Park ordinance discussion, and the Nine Island Cove Florida Forever program. Start off with the Florida Wildlife Commission boat ramp agreement. To review for those that aren't familiar with this, we have an agreement with the state that the boat parking area on this part of the parking lot, restroom down through and including the ramp, is city property. But in 1969, 67, somewhere around there, the city made an agreement with the state that if they built the boat ramp, possibly paved the area, we would have a 25-year automatic renewing agreement with them that they would have an easement to that property and they would do the major repairs. Dunnellon was responsible for doing the minor repairs. 25 years went by and it was renewed. So right now this agreement is 50 years old and it comes up for renewal in October. What this means is if we do nothing, it renews automatically, which again for another 25 years allows the state to have control of the boat ramp and have control of the parking in that area. We all know that parking here is full to capacity on the weekends. It's very busy. During the week, we know the boat ramp, boats are stacked up 5 deep to use it. That is I did a survey that I shared with the chief over a week period. I estimated on Saturday and Sunday at least 100 boats used the parking boat ramp, and up to 50 boats used it during the week. The way it is right now, there was discussion previously of charging parking fees to park, but that never worked out when the realization was that that half of the parking lot was controlled by the state, and you can't charge parking over there. So what I would like to do is throw out to council and get council's agreement that we allow possibly myself as the mayor and Mr. Hand to reach out, Mandy, to reach out to the state and see if we can make some modifications to that agreement that allows the city to have more control over that ramp and the parking area. KP Hole, as you know, charges $20 a boat to use their ramp. So when you think of this parking and when you think of that ramp and you think how the city is revenue starved, there is possibly a cash cow right there that if we make an agreement with the state, perfect agreement for me would be for them to continue to have the easement for whatever reason they want the easement, I don't know, but for us to get control of being able to control the parking and possibly fees for the boat ramp, and let them still do the maintenance as they see fit. I'm kind of puzzled right now why after 50 years they would want to continue in the agreement, because they're on the hook for major repairs, although no major repairs have been done in a long time. But possibly it's the state's way of guaranteeing access to the river or something, I don't know. But that is something that we need to be aware of, that if we do nothing come October, this agreement automatically renews and the city, even though we own it, it'll be 2043 before anybody can readdress it really again. You can approach the state in between contracts, but it's pretty much that the state would have to agree, or you'd have to prove that they haven't been doing their end of the deal to get out of the contract. So it's always a good time when a contract comes due, if there's parts of it that you want to address, this is the time to address it. So, Council, I would like to have the opportunity to at least reach out to the state and test the water and see what they may say.
I thought we had kind of given the blessing on that on Wednesday.
Well, that's why we're doing it at a council meeting right now. I just want to make sure. Okay? Does this take a motion or anything?
No, just consensus is sufficient.
Okay, so we're good with that? Okay. So I just needed clarification. All right, we're going to the Blue Run Park ordinance discussion. On Wednesday's workshop, we talked about the Blue Run Park and our ability to run the park and govern the park. A lot of the management proclamations, warranty deed, signify that Dunnellon is the majority principal to run that park. One of the things that was in the original agreement was 1 year after the park was established, Dunnellon was supposed to pass ordinances that controlled the park. 10 years or more has gone by and no ordinance has ever been passed. In fact, the park is being run through resolutions. So we need, and I've talked with Chief about trying to control the park, trying to use the police powers to do the things that we need to do, and things with resolution, it does water down the police's ability to do the things we need to do. Mandy, if you can show the resolutions that are currently at the park, I would appreciate it. Can you blow that up a little bit? All right, there we go. Perfect. Here is the park rules based on resolution, which is basically a decent starting point for an ordinance on the basic. There's other ordinances we will consider on other aspects, but this is just the basic nuts and bolts of controlling the park. The resolution that's there right now is park hours are from dusk to dawn, alcoholic beverages are prohibited, fires are prohibited, no overnight camping, no motorized vehicles, pets must be on a leash, No removal of vegetation, collecting or harassing wildlife is prohibited. Fishing is permitted. I find that interesting. Normally, if you don't say something about something, it is permitted. So I guess they wanted to make sure there was never a question that you can fish, so they said fishing is permitted. No firearms, put your trash in the containers, no bring in your own trash from off-site. The facilities are first come, first serve. Defacing the property or signs is prohibited. Metal detectors are prohibited. Engaging in violent and disruptive behavior, obviously. This is an interesting one right here. In the area where the bike path and river access ramp converges, pedestrians have the right-of-way. That's a very key thing right there. Certainly there are times when there's no possibility for a pedestrian to have the right-of-way. And then the last one, which seems to be not congruent or consistent with some of the languages in the agreements, is the commercial use. Commercial use is prohibited except for drop-off and pickup by licensed city business tax receipt tube and kayak companies. There is language throughout our agreements that say commercial use of the park is prohibited. So this resolution seems to be, or could be argued to be, at odds with what our agreements are. So with that said, what we need to do, council, is we need to go over this, add, delete, change, modify, and reach out to the county, reach out to those that know about this park, and put together a group of basic ordinances that we should put in place, which was what we were supposed to do within 1 year of this park opening. It just hasn't been done. One other thing that needed to be done, a group of the original people that put the park together is supposed to be put together, that are supposed to meet from time to time to discuss issues in the park. I brought that out to Jim Couliard, and he admitted that group has not been put together. And here again, in our agreements, that group was to be put together. So any thoughts or ideas on how we go about creating a group of ordinances that we need to run the park?
I mean, I'm sure what we have up there is the stepping stone to it, and I'm sure that we can't be the only city that's ever needed to do an ordinance, so I'm sure there's something. Can you give us anything that would, what we need, I mean, basically not recreate the wheel, so to speak, and have it at the next workshop to go over?
I just think it depends on how council wants to move forward procedurally. If, you know, the interest is to go back and take a look at that management plan and make sure that everything's checked off, you know, creating the group of interested parties is kind of is one of the most important steps. Now, that being said, that doesn't prevent council from, especially if the feeling up here is that there's something lacking in the current rules, from starting the process of creating an ordinance or even adopting an ordinance. It just depends on how council wants to move forward at this time. So certainly there could be, council could wait until there's a group in place, or council could start taking, you know, steps to draft a new document or come up with some ideas that need to be in the ordinance, or council could move directly and adopt an ordinance similar to the resolution. But I do think that, and of course, what's been in the management plan has not been followed per se since it was created in 2008, the exact process. I think the logical progression of, you know, what was intended was to create that group and then to move along from there, so.
Chief, can I invite you up, and possibly you can speak to the difference between you operating within resolution and within ordinances, how that impacts you and the police from fulfilling your duties?
Well, the main thing is a resolution. If they violate the resolution, basically all I can do is tell them, no, they can't do that. And if they continue to do it, I can give them a trespass warning. There's no teeth in a resolution for me to do anything. But if I have an ordinance, then there can be a penalty, and there's also can be, if they disagree with the citation that we give them for an ordinance, then they have a way to go before a judge and take it before a judge. But a resolution, that's all it is paper, in my opinion.
I got you. Have you found that in trying to be involved with Blue Run Park and trying to control everything that's going on there, have you found that not having solid ordinances behind you has prohibited you from doing the things you need to do?
Well, absolutely. I mean, my guy that's on the river now, he basically adheres to the rules of the dogs on leases. I think we finally have got that under control. The swimming, of course it says no swimming, but somewhere there's a sign down there somewhere about a resolution about swimming. We've just about got that under control. But the problem is now there's so many kayaks coming up that we need more help. They need more help getting them to the distributors that picks the people up. Now, I did talk to Mr. Anderson today, and he is here, and we have basically, I'd be safe to say, we have a gentleman's agreement on future pickups from the park. Would that be safe to say, Mr. Anderson? Yes. Because there were some issues there over the weekend, and I did talk to Mr. Anderson today about the issues, and we have come up with a gentleman's agreement. But no, we need some teeth at Blue Run Park. We need ordinances that we can enforce. I think people need to have the rights, but we also need, when you got 500 people at the top of the funnel putting in, then you got a ramp that lets 3 people out, there's a problem.
Yes. Yes.
And we have to control it. Otherwise, cars get backed up on 484, which is no good. And not only that, but citizens can't come in to Blue Run Park. Our local citizens, because now, if we got pictures, we got trucks and vans with pulling trailers and they're loading them up. So we got a lot of people. There's nothing I can do to turn them away. But if we had ordinances, then we could. And as you saw the pictures, there's a van and a truck. Believe it or not, of course we didn't see it, but we heard later, but the guy left out of there with people in the back of the trailer with the truck.
You.
Yeah, that wasn't y'all. Yeah, that wasn't. So yes, we do need teeth in the ordinance, and we do need to say what is commercial. Does the county tell us who can come in? Or does the city of Dunnellon say who can get the commercial passes?
Well, I think there's a general feeling, especially with the plans that are in place for that park, how it's going to be expanded into the Florida Trail system. It's going to become a major hub to the Florida Trail system and the greenways, that the number of people using those trails and coming in and out of that park as pedestrians or park users is going to increase incredibly. So I think there's a general consensus that it's only a matter of time before the city, the county are going to have to be thinking about somewhere else for that takeout to be. It's impossible for it to stay there with the plans that are currently in place. But with that said, in the meantime, we need to know how to deal with it. And it is, I go out there every weekend, every Saturday and Sunday, and it ebbs and flows. 10 minutes, it's just running like clockwork. And I do have to say, everybody that's out there, whether it's county or the vendors, they are working hard, no question. But then it just matters how many people show up at that ramp at the same time. And then it can go from a smooth running operation to
chaos.
Just, and what I'm finding now is the kayak activity has really increased. Somehow, some way, people seem to really be getting into kayaks. And kayaks are even tougher to move up and down that ramp than a tube. And people oftentimes need help. They have a paddle, they have a cooler, they have their own their container that they have their purse, whatever. So when you get 3 or 4 kayaks sitting at that base there and you have more people coming up, it can get wild real quick. And then people who come in on their own with their own kayaks, they want to park in the loading area so they can load their own kayaks on their personal vehicles, and they have every right to do that. It's their park. And now if they go slow because they don't quite can't remember how to put their kayak on, or they forget a strap, or how do you do this, how do you do that, they could be sitting there creating a bottleneck. Everybody knows it's a problem. I mean, I don't think anybody debates that, Chief. Andrew, what would you recommend? What would you recommend as a starting point to try to get some ordinances together?
I think staff just needs to know what council wants, and perhaps if council feels that best comes from staff, that can be staff driven into looking what needs to occur based on feedback, and that could be then from the chief, from all the different departments in the city, and that could be brought back at a workshop. Council could certainly have a workshop themselves and brainstorm some things that you all want to have, or include that in your direction to staff. It's hard for me to make a recommendation. It just really depends on what you want, what you think is the most effective means. But you certainly do have a staff that's very knowledgeable of it, and they can provide you with some information.
Well, what I would like, I think we have the basis of it right here. I think if we started from that point, added to it, deleted to it, what staff possibly would think, then bring it back to a workshop where we'd also have public input, public discussion, council discussion. I think that might be the best way of just kind of get the ball rolling. Of course, Chief, we want your input big on what you need in the ordinances too. So.
All I ask of course, it's too late this year. September's coming quick, and it'll be over.
Right.
But I'm hoping by next year we can have some ordinances in place to help us.
Well, that's a good point. One thing we cannot do is, as we get to the end of the season and we realize this is coming to an end, we have a tendency to just back up and say, okay, it's over. And then it comes back again. So actually, we need to get after this now. Possibly it won't change anything for this season, but it will definitely get things ready from that point forward. So I don't want to wait till October when it's not an issue and then no one wants to deal with this. So
yes.
This is a good time to deal with it right now.
Absolutely.
So are you asking for consensus from us to go ahead and have staff?
Correct.
And the attorney go ahead and get working on this? It doesn't have to be a motion right now, it's just staff will give us back, and then when we get it in the thing, okay, perfect.
Okay. You
Because
good with that?
I know that some of the public has emailed us, so we can,
Sure.
and I know staff has those already, so we can, get that to staff for their, to
And we
help.
want to make it very clear to public that the public has a big stake in this, and you'll be very much encouraged to give opinion, give us ideas, get into the discussion. This is the public's park, and we want to use it for the public. Okay, Chief?
Sounds good.
Thank you so much.
Thank you, sir.
Okay.
Yeah, I have a comment.
Sure.
Might this necessitate a special workshop?
It could. It could. We'll see how it goes.
Don't forget we have budget season coming up, and we've already got special workshops.
Well,
I think before, it would be prudent to get a hold of Mr. Couillard and see that we're all on the same page, so that we are not at diverse thinking, that we make it a little smoother.
I agree. I agree, and when this was brought up at the workshop last week, I personally reached out to Mr. Couillard and let him know this was going to be a discussion, and that's why he came. So he's
absolutely
very well.
Yes.
Now, this isn't the end of the ordinances.
Right.
We are also going to get into discussions of how the park's used, how much the park can be used, limits, things like that. There is a point, there's a breaking point. So these will be the basic, just the basic park rules to run the park, but this does not mean it's going to be comprehensive and cover everything that we need to do. I would imagine this group we're going to be putting together, which we're supposed to, will have a lot to do with discussing some of those kind of rules and regulations, what we do. Okay, it's a start, guys. This is something that should have been done. I think the park was opened in 2010, something like that. Oh, I'm tired. I don't want to talk about Nine Island Cove Forever program, huh?
I doubt that.
Okay, here we go. As you know, the word got out quite rapidly that the Forever program, which is called basically the Body Acquisition and Restoration Council, met Friday and considered our application of Nine Island Cove for the Florida Forever program. Bernino and I went up there, drove all the way to Tallahassee to make a in-person presentation. Bert made the presentation. I thought it was a very good presentation with the slides, talking about all the various aspects of the park, what made it valuable and why it would be part of their interest zone. I came up after Bert spoke as the mayor, saying we had support. So Mandy, if you could put up the, there we go. So here's how it went. We spoken to in front of a 7-member council who listens to you and looks at your application and looks what you have to say. And as it has been said over and over and over in council discussions, this is nothing more to see if the property you're presenting is of interest environmentally, whether it has distinct features, historic features, springs, wildlife, whatever, to present to them a piece of property that they would consider was significant to be protected by the state of Florida. The state of Florida has, since this started in 2000, has retired over 2 million acres of land and kept it for perpetual green space parks to protect Florida, which is growing by 1,000 people per day. The state of Florida has already spent $3.2 billion retiring property and protecting it for future generations. So Bert and I made our presentation to ARC, and they listened, and there was a few questions, not many, but I think they were very impressed by our presentation, and a 7-panel voted unanimously to include Nine Island Cove as part of the Florida Forever program. So congratulations, Nine Island Park is listed. For those who thought that this would be very expensive to get it to this point, Bert and I stopped at McDonald's and I bought him breakfast. It cost $9. And Bert filled up his gas tank. How much did that cost, Bert?
I don't know, it's a gift to the city.
Yeah. and whatever it costs to fill out the application. So all this hubbub about how much it was going to cost and all this for a Egg McMuffin and a cup of coffee and a tank of gas and some postage, it is now listed. So what does that mean? Well, it's listed. We don't have to do anything. No one has to do anything. It is just considered a piece of property that is environmentally sensitive, and the state of Florida would be interested in purchasing it, possibly, if there was a sponsor behind it. So let's just kind of go through this. Number one, with the ARC vote, that's the council that is part of they make the decisions for the Florida Forever program. The Nine Island Cove property is now listed with the Rainbow River Corridor property on the Florida Forever program. So what we did very astutely, our RC attached this property to the Rainbow River Corridor as a continuation of the corridor. So that was a very nice move to just attach it, amend it. So it is part of the effort to protect the Rainbow River, the wetlands, and whatever associated with it. Number two, ARC will again, nothing happens now until December. In December of 2021, that panel will get together and relist and re-rank the approved properties in order of recommendation and based on funds. So at that time, they will look at Nine Island and they will rank it. Public comment is going to be at that time. I'm sure we will be up there again trying to convince them that this property is sensitive. Then the next step after December is in May. We're talking about nearly a year. This doesn't happen quick. The governor's cabinet will meet in May to decide which properties will be purchased. Public comment may not be available at that time. It might be, they'll just go on the recommendations of ARC. Right now, with the listing, when we were accepted Friday with the Rainbow River Corridor, the Rainbow River Corridor is listed number 18. So thus, the Nine Island Cove property is already listed as number 18. Number 18 is not a high number. Usually by the time they get to number 18, they have spent their money. So we would have to hope in December we get bumped down. Number 5, one possibility is the Nine Island Cove property can be broken off and funded separately from the entire Rainbow River Corridor by Florida Forever. So let's say, for instance, it was going to be quite expensive to do the entire Rainbow River Corridor, but they had a small amount of money left over that could just chisel out the Nine Island Cove. It is possible that the Nine Island Cove property could be funded. And keep in mind the Florida Forever program basically is whatever the price is to purchase the property. They pay 90% of it, and whoever is sponsoring the effort would be responsible for the remaining 10%. We were also told that funding outside of Florida Forever may be a faster vehicle to meet your goals. So for instance, if you didn't want to wait a year, if you had a way of getting money to just purchase it yourself and going forward, you can do that. It makes no difference. It's just a listed property. The owners don't have to sell it. The owners can sell it to an individual. The owners can build on it. It's nothing more than an identified piece of property that's eligible. That's all that is, and we've talked about that ad nauseum. Number 7, funding from other sources that pay a portion of the project can move Nine Island Cove up the list. So for instance, let's say, as has been discussed, that we have other people other entities that would help with the cost. If we came up, if money was brought forward, let's say $100,000 or $200,000 by another source, and it was brought for Florida forever, that we already have 200,000 in pocket, that would definitely move you up the list. This process will take a minimum of a year. Okay, Mandy, do I have anything else there? Okay, the compelling factors that made them very receptive to us is this piece of property is on the riverfront. It protects sensitive riverfront property. It's of historical significance. It is thought by our historians in Dunnellon that this is where the original phosphate mines were dug that created the boomtown of Dunnellon. That, they loved that. The other thing that they loved is being shown pictures and being known that there's actually springs in those coves. If you ever go back in those coves, even though a lot of them are landlocked and there's no water running through them, the water is very, very clear. And I actually took a hike with Dwight Porter, and I know where the springs are. And if you look at an old-time map from the 1890s, it's called Hale Springs, H-A-L-E Springs. You have to go way back to the old days, but it is there, and I'm probably one of 5 people now that know where it is. Not big, about the size of a basketball, but they are flowing, and it's amazing how much water comes out of. You know, the wildlife was important to them, and also the public benefit was important to them, and I think what they were keen on and will even get more receptive to, that it could be part of our trail system. Our trail system is supposed to continue and go through the downtown historic area and then eventually angle out to Goethe Park. That is part of the plan. So this park would also become part of the Rainbow Blue Run Trail and the trail system. This would make Dunnellon an absolute destination when this all comes together. And on top of it, now we would have a 40-acre park right on the Withlacoochee River. There's no significant parks close by that have access on the Withlacoochee River. So now we'd have a 30-acre park on the Rainbow River for the public to enjoy. We would have now on the opposite side of town in the historic section a 40-acre park right on the Withlacoochee. And like I've said previously, these things we're doing is just not for today. Not for just today to say, well, we don't need this today or we have this. This is not only for today, but 10, 20, 30, 40 years from now. Just think of all the parks that we enjoy statewide and nationwide, that were created 50, 100 years ago or longer. I'm sure when those were created back then, people said, why in the world are you doing this? Why do we have to retire all this land in Montana, Wyoming for Yellowstone Park? Who gives a hoot about this wild wilderness that no one ever is going to see and no one's ever going to care about? Why would we build this? Why would we pay for it? But 100 years later, these parks that were created now are very important. So keep in mind that Dunnellon, if we pull this off, Dunnellon will forever have its own park on the Rainbow and will forever have its own park on the Withlacoochee. So that is my report. Nothing will happen for quite a while. It's sitting there, and all we can do is make sure that we let the state know that we're interested and keep after that. And that's the conclusion of my reports. I hope you enjoyed them.
Absolutely. It was great.
I'd like
Okay,
to,
yes.
I'd like to say on the May governor's cabinet, I talked with the executive director of the Florida Conservation Voters Coalition. They're a party that literally tracks all of these requests for land conservation. And they said the governor's cabinet has never turned down anything that the panel has put on the list. It's merely they're signing off. So that's good to know.
You just have to be listed high enough
High enough,
that
right.
they haven't spent the money before
Right.
they get to you.
Exactly. It's all about priority. of
And
the
Governor
money, right.
DeSantis realizes that the environment, the beaches, the water, is
100 million.
critical to the economy of Florida. And even though Republicans aren't normally known to be beholden to doing extra things for the environment, Florida's economy is based on the environment, and therefore a lot of money is being put. It's actually flush, millions of dollars right now are being earmarked for the springs, beaches, beach restoration. So Florida is in a renaissance right now on trying to create upgraded environmental things. So with that said, I'll turn it over to, unless anybody else has a comment?
Well done, well done.
Vice Mayor Hanchar, here you go. You got two things here.
Okay, as you know, we've been trying to get the county to work with us because they have to. They're the only ones that can do it with the multimodal project, right? Staff and I have been on them, and TPO, Rob Baums, over, he's been very helpful to us. But anyway, Elton, who is the assistant county engineer, is that his position? Works with the county engineers department. He's number 2, I believe. He's out of town right now, but he spoke to me Friday late afternoon and said, asked about this modal project, and he basically said that the thing that's kind of holding the county or his department up from kind of giving it its blessing, because right now it is listed at number 19 with the TPO, that the environmental study, if we were to do the bridge, again, the bridge was something that was brought to us, and Mandy and I have been trying to look through our files to see who it was that suggested the bridge. It was not us. It kind of came to us as a, hey, while you're doing this, you might as well add a bridge kind of thing. So we're like, yeah, sure. But if we want this project to get started or to get a good running start, what Alton suggested is that we as a council go ahead and vote to accept the project. And Mandy, can you bring that up, how the old documents? And again, there were so many public discussions about this. I mean, this was even before I was on council, and that, as we all know, was before the beginning of time. So, I mean, I've sat in the public when we were discussing what to do with this bike trail. So it is something that has been well vetted. The public has known about it. They had a lot of input into it. So the bridge, which is the little yellow part down there at the end, thank you. That, if we take that portion off for now, we can address it again later when funds are available and those types of things. But if we, as a city council, were just to vote to encourage the county to go forward with this project without including the little yellow bridge over there, then I believe this has a better shot of getting funded. That is what I am coming and requesting. And he apologizes for not being able to be here, but of course he's on vacation for like 2 or 3 weeks. They get killer times off. Any questions?
So if the bridge was eliminated, how could the bike trail?
Well, at first we
Continue.
were never going to do the bridge. The bridge was like an afterthought. The bridge was something, somebody brought us and said, hey, you can have a bridge. The bridge has given us a headache. What would happen, and Mr. Couillard addressed it here the other day, and I again asked Mr. Elton as well, I said, okay, so basically what's gonna happen is the walking trail that we have now on the bridge, the bicyclists, and this is what Mr. Coulier said, would have to get off before the bridge at that little park that we have, and then walk their bicycles across the bridge, and then they can continue on and do all the trails that go on and on and on. The worst thing in my mind, and this is what was gonna happen before the bridge idea, was that we'll probably have some type of, you know, those ugly little white,
Delineators.
thank you, big word, with the little orange tops. That will probably be on the, you know, between the cars and the pedestrians. So, I mean, they're not the most beautiful things. Maybe we can put an otter on top of each one, I don't know. But that is what I am asking that we can have. That's our proposed. And this is why we already have our funds in there. We've done the off-street parking to, we, the city, have done everything that we thought we were supposed to do to get this project shovel-ready until the FDOT kind of threw a wrench in everybody by making the county do the project management of it and not the city. These never had the bridge in them, these proposals.
So you're just asking for council to check off?
That we would send a letter to the county stating that we want to go forward with this project without the bridge at this time, but making sure that it's at this time. And this, again, this is the county, it's in the best interest of the county because this is part of their plan to get everything flowing throughout the state as well as the county.
Okay.
Anybody have do we need a vote on this or a consensus that the?
I don't understand.
You don't, okay.
I really don't.
Okay, let me explain it one more time.
Can I help out with that?
Sure, go for it.
We started this project, as Valerie said, probably 7, 8 years ago. It started. And it had been vetted and vetted and vetted, multiple different options. And at some point, I want to say it was about 6 years ago, somebody threw in the concept of a pedestrian bridge coming from Blue Run Park.
And it'd be beside the bridge that we have now.
Right. It would have been literally right on the edge of the pre-existing bridge. And now I guess the design, because of the way the landscape is there and the tubers exit and all that, they would have to change the angle of it so that it would miss the tubers exit. Well, because of that, in our conversations recently, not only did the FDOT change some of the rules of playing the game there, but with the county having to come into it, and then the cost of construction, everything's going up, that bridge is playing a major component in stopping the project entirely. Because, number one, they have to do all kinds of geotech surveying of the land to see the structural integrity, the embankment integrity, stuff of that nature. So if we took that one single component out, the odds of getting the bike trail initiated and started go way up. And I don't know, 80, 90% better chance of getting this project back on the list and getting started. The county benefits from it, the city benefits from it. One, we get our bike trail. Two, the county's getting just about a brand new road out of it as well, and some of the infrastructure that's involved with the roadway. But we could do the bridge as a phase 2 or phase 3 of the project. All right, so temporarily it would just be a foot crossing over the existing bridge the way it is. So it doesn't.
I got it.
Okay.
Get it?
Did that help?
But it doesn't sound like we have a lot of choice here.
Got us over the barrel.
Well, I think that because council voted on the conceptual drawings to get approved to go originally is why Valerie is asking for council's vote to eliminate that one component for now and re-entertain it when it becomes feasible or more achievable.
Andrew, what do we need to do?
Process should follow how it was originally adopted. So if it was simply by motion, and Mandy, do you know the history on the plan and exactly how that was adopted?
I have not had a chance to research it. When the conceptual plan, I know the council, from what I just recall from memory, there were several plans that were presented by the engineer, and I want to say it was conceptual plan D that the council voted to approve. But I believe it was just by motion on the agenda. I don't think it was by resolution or anything like that. It was just a motion, to the best of my recollection. It's been a while.
Mm-hmm. Then if action needs to be taken tonight, what council could do is go ahead and just take a motion, make a motion to make the amendment, and in the meantime, you know, if something needs to be done to formalize it, that can come back at the workshop and at a subsequent council meeting.
So what you're suggesting then is that for the time being, we make the motion, but we will have an opportunity to amend it after we have gone further?
Well, that depends. I guess what needs to be considered then is what is council trying to accomplish tonight, and for what purpose? And if it's just that the county needs some kind of confirmation, or where council's mind is at, then that's easy just to tell them, hey, you know, you can make a motion that can accomplish that, or even just by consensus. I'm not quite sure what's exactly needed, but to actually modify the plan itself, formally, it may take some action depending on how it was originally adopted, and depending on how it is within the CRA plan. That would have to be gone back and looked at.
So it's a process?
It could be, yes.
It could be a process.
So what I would recommend is just do a consensus. It's nothing formal, we just let them know that's where we're leaning.
That the consensus is that this council is in favor of the county proceeding with the multimodal route without the bridge at this time.
Yes.
Is that okay? And
At
have
this
the mayor, have a mayor send the letter, or have a letter sent with the mayor's signature?
That is fine. Under these circumstances, you know, typically public comments not required for non-motion items, but because this is going forward with, it would be appropriate to take public comment on it.
This time or at a
Yes, sir.
later meeting?
At this time, just to get initial comments, and definitely at a later meeting.
Okay, so,
Public comments.
all right, I know this is long. We have the bike trail out there. Part of the bike trail was to have a pedestrian bridge. We are being told that the complications because of the pedestrian bridge will possibly prevent going forward with the bike trail. So we're talking about sending a letter to the county
Correct.
and stating that we support, we are okay going forward with the bike trail absent the pedestrian bridge. Is there any public comment on that? Okay, yes. Say no. Congratulations for still being focused on everything we're saying.
Never underestimate a woman. Suzanne Eno, 9220 Southwest 193rd Circle, Dunnellon, Florida. I am terrified to hear that you want pedestrians and bikes to walk along the inside of the bridge. There will be injuries and deaths. You'd have to have some kind of an amazing structure between the cars and where the pedestrians and bikes are going on the inside of the bridge. So I urge you to consider what that would be and have that as part of your plan or motion or whatever it is you...
Or letter, yeah.
Yeah, whatever it is you're doing. I can think of those things that are kind of shaped like that are cement that you see along roads to keep people from crossing over, or slow them down or something. And you probably need to make the speed limit much slower along in there. Because otherwise, I think there's going to be disaster. It's a wonderful plan to have that bridge, and maybe even that if it's not needed, or that it, by not having it would make a plan go forward. But I just advise you to be very careful about, because there could be, there could be, I don't know if they could sue the city or the county or whoever, but I can assure you that there are going to be accidents.
Thank you. That is a consideration for sure.
Mr. Mayor, just so that I'm clear, that was just a consensus. There was not a motion, and it was a consensus to send a letter to Marion County stating that the city agrees to move forward with the approved plan without the bridge.
Correct.
Yes.
Okay.
How about language that we would prefer the bridge, but if that would be kill the deal, I would, you know, I'd do it a little
It is
bit
going
more
to kill the deal.
Yeah.
I can already tell you it's going to kill the deal.
We cannot, you know, word it in such a way that our preference is to have the bridge, but we understand and we're willing to go without it, something of that nature.
All right.
All right, second thing, it's not my favorite, made my stomach upset all morning, all afternoon. Thank you. I'll let you take one and pass them one down. For months now, we have been, I know when the council first came on, I know the attorney and all of us, we've multiple times discussed things about our emails, and you do not, you know, the sunshine laws and all those types of things. It just got to me today, and the best way I can take care of it, because we have to do everything in public, is to bring it out here today. I have been keeping track of emails that I do receive that are reply all from Councilwoman Kenny. I have provided a copy of the ones that I have saved. This morning, for instance, there was 5 of them just this morning. Now then, the majority of the times it says thank you so-and-so. I've also provided where on the 14th and the 13th of this month, where the emails were more than just a thank you, but they were conversations that she was giving back to people. Now then, I totally understand that in sunshine law that you have to have 2 parties communicating to make it a violation, and if there's anything different, our attorney will fix my comments. We do have a resolution 2013-15. I've provided it for you as well, and it's the City Council Code of Conduct. It was dated October 28th, 2013. It's page 8 of our manual that everybody has to sign when they take office. So everybody has to sign this. And just very quickly, because it is late, written correspondence between board members, the use of email or written report or any other form of written communication from one council member to other council members on a subject which might be discussed at a public meeting is not a violation of sunshine law. If no other council members respond to the council members' correspondence outside of a public meeting. And then it goes on to, however, even one council member responds to the email, written report, or other written communication, a violation of the sunshine law has occurred. Therefore, and this is in bold writing, but we kind of like, this is important. Therefore, no council member should send emails, reports, position papers, or other forms of communication regarding a subject which might come before the council for action. Thus, the city council's discussions and deliberations on matters coming before the council must occur at a duly noticed city council meeting. If any council member wants to communicate his or her position on a subject which might come before the council, he or she can send the communications to the city manager and the city clerk and ask that it be included in the council meetings packet. So, again, the words have usually been thank you and I would appreciate and those types of things. But I wanted to go on record and directly ask all council members not to email me any longer, so long as you hold a position on the council. This gives an appearance that there could easily be violations of the Sunshine Law, intentionally or unintentionally, and could put everyone in jeopardy. It is truly a disregard for the city's guidelines, and I am formally asking that no one hit, and I think we've all done this before, said this out loud before, but I am formally requesting that no council person hit reply all, because I am scared to death that while I'm going over the 400 emails that I have on my personal emails, the 100 emails that I'm sometimes looking at on our city emails, that I might inadvertently hit, thank you, this is a great idea, gosh, I can't wait to vote on it, whatever. So I am protecting myself, I am protecting each and every one of you, and I am asking Ms. Kinney that you please stop hitting reply all.
May I speak to that, since my name's evoked?
Absolutely.
I was directed by Mandy, and I think she had told me when, day one, when we were going through things, that if I had something that I was responding to, that I should hit reply all because of transparency.
Absolutely not. I would never, ever advise anyone of that.
Mandy, I would love not to hit reply all. I hit reply all only to say that I had received the documents that you were sending to the council. And I was understood, maybe I misunderstood, but I understood.
Because I would never advise a council member to do that. As a matter of fact, I advised the opposite. I actually anticipated this because I was told that you had told someone else that. And I have emails where I have advised the council on multiple occasions, if I've sent something out to you and I've reiterated at the bottom of it, please do not reply all.
Well, I have not seen that, but I will say that I thought I was responding to what you had said.
No, ma'am, please, no.
And I'm very happy not to hit reply all. I'd rather not. But of the messages that have been shown on the reply all, they are only indicating that I received the information that you sent. There is no comment whatsoever.
Well, there are comments. Yes, ma'am. You did make comments.
Maybe at some point, but by and large, I think that all I'm saying is I have received the information. That's what I'm looking at right now.
Right, but again, and I know we've stated this numerous times on council after y'all came in, so it came to a point today, especially when the last email that you sent Mr. Biebert, without a doubt, we are lucky to have a professional park manager here in Dunnellon. Thank you once again for your contribution to our city. And again, it's nothing that is mean or it's nothing that is saying there's no way that I'm going to vote for this, they're out of their minds. And I'm seeing that. However, again, it's put us in jeopardy, and it's been mentioned numerous times on this council. I
think you've made your point. I think you've made your point. And I don't think that the intent of our code of ethics is to embarrass someone. I think this could have been handled a little differently. That's my personal opinion.
No, ma'am, there's no way for me to handle this differently because it's been handled.
I'm not so hard of hearing that I wouldn't have understood.
It doesn't appear that there is any damage done, right? Okay.
But what I did today, I had no clue that Valerie was going to be bringing this up. And I did respond asking that
Yes,
I
you
don't
did.
get any
Yes,
more
you
of those
did.
emails.
And I think the first thing yes, well, at any rate,
Well,
understood.
It's very
My problem
understandable.
was just I
You-
get so many emails. That's why I
It
respond,
it was
please,
a
I don't need
misunderstanding
those,
and
so.
nothing negative has happened.
Right.
And, okay. Okay. Andrew, do you have anything you want to add to it? Well, I think we get it now.
No, I haven't reviewed
very careful
the
not to
correspondence. I haven't
Yeah.
seen it. I was made aware of it today when I arrived. But yeah, it's just remembering that two-way communication and so forth, and it's best to take every precaution. That's all I would reiterate
Okay.
to avoid being in that type of a situation.
Okay, very good. Vice Mayor, are you finished?
Yes, sir, thank
Thank
you.
you very much. Okay, number 14, city clerk comments. Mandy?
The only thing we have is just wanted to make sure that you all had had a chance to review the budget calendar to see if you had any comments or questions or changes.
Not at this
Good.
time.
It's on my calendars.
Okay. That's it, right, Jen?
Yes,
Just make
and
sure.
just June 23rd, 3 PM, please. Our first budget workshop.
Okay, make sure we are reminded of that. It's special time, right?
I will tell you daily.
All right.
I'm working very hard, please.
Andrew, your report, please.
I have nothing this evening.
Very good. If we have nothing else, do we have a motion to adjourn?
Is there any other
Oh, yeah,
departments?
why isn't Troy ever on here, right? You're not
Council,
even
if you don't
listening.
mind, I'd like to at least give you an update on
Wait,
our
just-
project.
Yeah, there's.
How long
nothing-
is that gonna take?
2 seconds, 2 seconds. No, I just want to make sure that council's aware of the progress of, and what we're doing on our parking lot projects. Right now, we're at about 90% completion. As you notice, the fencing and the brick pavers have not been completed. The pickleball court is coated, but the old basketball court is not coated. So we're in a,
Pickle?
we're in a pickle. We're in good communications, I'll say, with the company that's resurfacing the basketball court and ensuring that that will get done. The pavers, we've had a shortfall on materials around the state. They're having a very difficult time getting the pavers in. I was just recently on this past Friday given the same excuse for the chain link. So we've increased communications with the fencing company to expedite the chain link for security around public works. And I'll keep the council informed, but I'll keep Mandy informed weekly now until that project is completed. All right? Other than that, just a few small things, but I did want to tell council, I attended a seminar today through our insurance carrier for the city in preparation for hurricane season. I learned a little bit about their computer programs, their data collection, and stuff like that. And I'll be working with Jan and Mandy to make sure that they're fully aware of our opportunity and preparing and surviving any storms that come through in regards to our public facilities. And one last thing that was brought to my attention today, well, it's been brought to my attention a couple weeks ago. However, I got some more detailed information. We had the update from Ken Metcalf about the historic district and all the ideas. And during his first presentation a couple months ago, I had mentioned 3 pieces of property that I would like for him to look into for possible locations of either community centers or town squares and so forth. One of the properties I mentioned was the Lions Club, located at Walnut Street and Cedar Street, and it has officially gone on the market. Okay, so just found out today their asking price is $75,000. This is a piece of property that's dead center of the historic district, right on Pennsylvania Avenue. Big parking probabilities, 2,000 square foot building, and something we can look into for the CRA district and the historic district. I just didn't want that to go by without council having knowledge of it. So something to consider. If you guys are interested, maybe get it on the agenda for July and talk more about it. Okay. It's-
75,000?
Yes, sir.
Not 175, 75,000.
$75,000 written on the top of the note there. Say that again?
Who's the lister?
And that I don't know. This was brought to me through Teresa Momberg
That
in
building's
Community
for sale?
Development. Okay? But I think that this is certainly worth looking into, seeing as how in 2018, they had a re-roof permit pulled, so we know that the new roof on there is at least only a couple of years old. But the rest of the structure, obviously, is going to need some TLC. But earlier this evening, I'm starting to get some clarification on what we're considering to be a community center for physical fitness, some gathering, some pottery clubs or whatever. That Lions Club building would be an amazing location for a future civic building of that nature.
How many parking spots would you say it has? 10, 15? probably?
No, more like 20, possibly 30. It's a pretty decent-sized piece of property. I really would have to get down there and look at it with an engineer to give you any true numbers, but I'd say at least 20 parking spaces. But
Our family used it one time for a family reunion, and there was quite a few people parked there.
I was going to say, there could be quite a bit, but we also have to take into consideration, just like we're talking about in Souls Harbor, when you question me about the 60 parking spaces there, I don't think the number's quite that great, because we have to look at the DRAs or any water runoffs and retentions, but all that can be, looked at in the future. But council, before I close tonight, I'm really asking council to please give us some direction on where we're going with our future in the Souls Harbor building. And in my opinion, and this is strictly my opinion, I hope you don't mind me giving it to you, but the architect for $39,000 is a necessity. It truly is, because whether that building gets used as a police department or a community center, the fact is, we don't have the space at our current police department to move forward in the future. And even if we did decide to redo that building, I'm going to spend $39,000 on an architect to tell me what that building needs. Okay, either an architect or engineers of some type to go into the heart and soul of that old building. And the bottom line is, even if the building had the square footage, it doesn't have the parking. And as a result of that, it's hurting the business properties beside it. So if nothing else, consider getting them in there as a temporary location while we take the next 5 years and look forward to building in the commercial district or something. But we do have the Souls Harbor building.
Well, Troy, I do appreciate your comment. And the only thing I can say is the architectural design and the application for the grant do not have to be done side by side.
Oh, no, right.
Right?
I'm just,
So
no, you're
where
right.
I'm at is, I want to find out if we're going to get the money. If we get the money, we can go with the architectural design. I don't see why we have, if we don't have to do them both at the same time, then we don't need to do them both at the same time. Because we can't do nothing until we find out whether we get the money.
I agree, but the money could take a while to figure out if we're going to get. The architectural design will let us know what we can start doing today to reduce the cost tomorrow. In other words, if the architectural design comes back, that we can just modify some offices, and this was what this portion of the project, this portion, and this portion cost, and maybe we can get them in there within the next 8 months to a year, at least using it as an office and an operation center while we're waiting on the grants to harden the building, to build the evidence room, and so forth. Just a suggestion. I'm just looking for guidance and direction as to how I can help get this police department in a new location while we review the old location.
Understood. Anything else?
No, sir. If I've forgotten anything, I will drop you an email.
I have a motion to adjourn.
So moved.
All in favor? Unanimous. Thank you very much.
The recording has stopped.